My toxic grandma literally exposed me in front of my entire family during my graduation lunch, essentially saying that I'm an atheist and that I don't believe in God anymore. And now I feel completely devastated because this is not the way I wanted to talk to my family about this, as it's now put me in a situation where I don't know who to trust and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 22-year-old female and I just graduated today with my bachelor's degree. Afterwards, my grandparents invited me to eat out with my two little brothers who were both in high school. I'd really wanted to sit next to my brothers because I haven't seen them in ages. However, my grandparents insisted that I sit right in between them. The lunch went fine, but the whole thing felt really uncanny. I felt uneasy and like something was wrong. My grandma kept appearing angry and kept resting her hand on my back, and it felt like she was purposefully digging her hand into my spine. This was extra painful since I have chronic spinal pain, which she absolutely knows about. Then, towards the end of the lunch, my grandma turned to me and told me that someone told her that they found my TikTok account and that I was posting inappropriate things on it. My grandma then said that she spied on my TikTok and found my post disturbing, and that she worried about my relationship with the Lord. For reference, my TikTok is pretty tame. I don't post anything that's really scandalous, if you know what I mean, which also, it's not like there's anything wrong with that, but mostly my TikTok's just full of like, I don't know, anything I want to post. Nothing really of any substance. However, I have posted some videos criticizing homeschooling, and this was because I was homeschooled, and really poorly at that, and this was all by a mother who never graduated high school and didn't want any bad secular influences. And many of these posts have the hashtag #ex-evangelical attached to them. She then went on asking me if I'm even a believer anymore, and I had to admit that I was no longer a Christian. I hated it. I wasn't really ready to come out, and I felt cornered. I also hated that she had to bring it up today, you know, the day of my graduation. I wanted to go out and celebrate tonight, but I felt so sick afterwards that I had to cancel and stayed at home dealing with my panic attacks all night. I have felt so nauseous because my family is super Christian, especially my grandma. For Christmas, she gave me a book that she wrote herself on how to be a godly young woman, which included things like dressing modestly, and that I couldn't deny my future husband, if you know what I mean. And trust me, if you know, then you know. Like, this is literally how Christian some of my family can get. But worst of all, she had to out me in front of my little brothers. And I felt this was really crappy for her to pull them into this personal matter in public. I kept trying to get her to take a hint that I didn't feel comfortable with her doing this here and now, but she completely ignored me. I finally asked her by saying, okay, well, who told you about this? And she said they requested to remain anonymous. I then asked if it was family, and she said no. However, I really doubt this, as nobody she knows really knows about me except for my family. I then told her that if they are getting involved in my personal life and not respecting my privacy, then they don't deserve the comfort of privacy as well. But you know what? She didn't budge on this. And this is really upsetting me because I don't know who in my family knows, and I don't know who I can trust. Now, my grandma apologized for stalking me online, but every time she did, she would end her statements with blaming me for having my account be public. And while yes, maybe that was an error on my part, I still don't think that it obligates others to expose me to family members or even confront me publicly. Additionally, I wasn't being completely stupid, as I only used my first name and had contact sharing turned off. So please, internet, I really need to know, like, do I have a right to be upset about this? I feel truly upset and like I lost a chance to share my beliefs with my family when I was ready, because right now I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, I hate your grandma. She sucks. I'm just gonna say that first and foremost. Anyone who chooses right now, like in the middle of your graduation moment, to try and bring up some crap like this, in my opinion, is a terrible person. And if they seriously cared about you, like really cared about your well-being and wanted to have a serious conversation with you, instead of this virtue signaling like grandstanding bullcrap your grandma did, then they really would have this conversation in private. They wouldn't publicly humiliate you just to try and like make a point. Because just to jump in the original poster's shoes for a second, if anyone did this to me about anything, not only would I be pissed off beyond recognition, but you better believe I'm doubling down and never going back to whatever I left. I don't care if it's a church or like an organization or a club or a sport or like a very toxic family member, whatever it is. The second you try and do that crap in public with me, oh buddy, that's the second I'm gonna get spiteful and double down like crazy. Like, you wouldn't find someone more toxic than me in this situation, like, let me tell you something. Because the original poster has it right, like they really do know what they're talking about. They they should have been given the chance to properly discuss this on their timeline and not outed by their grandparents, who, by the way, are not even good Christians. Like, seriously, anybody who acts like this and says, oh, I'm just worried about your relationship with the Lord, what they're really saying is, I can't believe you're not doing what I want you to do, so now I'm going to embarrass you to make you remember who's really in charge. And no, it's not God, it's not the Lord, it's not whatever they believe in, it's them. It's all about power, it's all about them being above you, and that's all it comes down to. And it kind of rings true, that cliche saying of like, oh, there's no hate like Christian love, because holy crap, people who act like this and then try to say they're Christian or have any kind of like godly attributes of like peace, love, and like helping your fellow man, like, no, miss me with that entirely. Jesus would never do this to somebody. He wouldn't expose someone like this, especially if they're not doing anything wrong. He'd probably be, oh, I don't know, compassionate and understanding and maybe try to see where you're coming from. Like, holy crap, it doesn't take like a historian or someone who is in the Christian faith to see that, yeah, you need to treat someone better than this, dude. This is so unbelievably toxic. So honestly, to the original poster, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this. Like, your grandparents suck. You deserve to have the right to, like, I don't know, discuss this on your own timeline. And the fact that your grandma robbed that of you is just so unfortunate, because you really haven't done anything wrong by disagreeing with her. And if she really cared about your salvation and your relationship with the Lord like she's pretending to do, she would have been way more compassionate by talking about this in private. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My mom is finding it difficult to accept that she has children from 3 different men, which means that we're not all going to be around during like holidays and stuff like that, which has overall just led to a lot of discussions about this and made my life just a little bit more difficult. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom has me and my brother with our dad. They were never married and they broke up when my brother was still a baby. But then my mom got married to husband number 1 and had my half-sister, who's 13 years old, and ended up getting divorced when she was a toddler. She then remarried again a few years later and had more kids with husband number 2. So if you're keeping count, that is 3 men in total, and yes, this will be important later on. Now, for the most part, she did the whole 50% custody of me and my brother. She had primary custody of my half-sister, but half-sister still saw her dad on weekends and wants to see him more. My mom always thought when all 3 older kids were old enough, she wouldn't have to share us with our dads, and we'd just choose to spend all holidays and everything with her because she gave us a bigger family, and she's the only parent for all 3 of us who had other kids, and all these other reasons. But in reality, my brother and I are very close to our dad, and we kind of just prefer being at his house. My half-sister is more used to mom, but wants more time with her dad and has talked about being excited for more time with him when she's older. My brother and I did Christmas with dad last year, and we spent New Year's with mom. When I first turned 18, I made the decision that during the summers between college, I would stay with dad because I had my own space and it was just a little bit less crazy. And you know what? My brother made the same choice for this year. My mom asked me about it before, and I told her that it's just less busy and there's no kids being loud or anything like that. I still went to see her, but she said it wasn't the same and that her house is home for us. But I told her both were for us and not just hers. Well, she told us her husband's family will be with them all December, and they'll be there for Thanksgiving too, so she wanted all 3 this year. We told her that we'd be there for Christmas, but not all month, and definitely not all 3, namely Christmas, Thanksgiving, and New Year's. My mom then had a fit over it, and she basically told us that we're adults, and it's supposed to be easier and not as strict anymore. But I told her, okay, well, this is the reality of having kids with like 3 different guys. She won't get us all every single time because we have a dad that we love and we want to see him too. I'm not really sure how to navigate this more delicately, or if I just need to be more firm, but she really hates it. I feel like my half-sister will make the same choices in a few years, or might even choose to live with her dad indefinitely when the time comes. And on top of that, she won't even live in the same town, which I guarantee you will drive my mom absolutely crazy. So am I the jerk with the way I handle this? Because I don't know really how else to put it. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think you did try to say this as nicely as you can, but that really is the reality of this. Like, good lord, lady, you've had kids with 3 different men. It sounds like your life is like really chaotic and crazy. And I know for me personally, like when the holidays come around, dude, I just want to relax. I don't want to deal with kids. I don't want to deal with any kind of drama. I don't want to hear screaming and crying. I want to sit back, relax, and just enjoy myself. So personally, I don't think the original poster is doing anything wrong. And if anything, they're probably making the right choice because this sounds a little bit weird and just a little bit selfish. English. An entitled jerk in a Japanese airport literally tries to cut in line in front of 40 people. And then once we confront him about it, this guy literally starts to get in my face and other people's faces, essentially wanting to fight us, all because he's in the wrong for trying to cut in line. So we decided to get some very petty revenge by deciding that he is absolutely going to get in trouble, as we not only reported him to the airline themselves, but as a result, his flight got canceled and he had to take another one probably like the next day. And it was such a strange interaction that honestly, I don't think I'll forget it anytime soon. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was headed back home from Japan to Washington, and the line for check luggage at the Tokyo airport was absolutely awful. Like, it was super long. I got there well before the flight, and I still ended up waiting about 30 minutes. As I slowly got closer to the counter, several people walked up, realized what was going on, and then dejectedly walked to the back of the line. But that's when our hero enters the scene. This younger Eastern European dude, probably in his early 20s, walks up, sees the line, then starts trying to have a conversation with the guy behind me. He was very clearly doing the whole, oh hey, let's be buddies and I can cut you thing, but the guy behind me wasn't having it. Eventually, he tells our young friend, hey man, you have to go to the back of the line. Things then take a turn, and the main character goes from uncharming but chummy to telling my line comrade to basically go screw himself, while also throwing in, well, what are you gonna do about it? And got in the guy's face, puffing out his chest and everything. Now mind you, this is at noon in a Japanese airport, in a place where everyone had been incredibly respectful and differential, so this really stood out. Now at this point, I had also turned around and told the guy to get back in the end of the line. And by the way, him puffing his chest out was way less effective since I'm so much taller than him. Neither me nor the guy behind me were going to take his bait and get into a scuffle with him, and it was honestly just super odd behavior. So we just waited for the next one of the airline people to come by, told them exactly what's going on, and the 10 other people in line around us corroborated our story. The best part about it is that she removed him and told him that he'd have to take another flight. Hilariously, this was the Hawaiian Airlines flight, and it was the only one that day. So I'm assuming he had to catch a flight the next day. And you know what? I still think about this guy from time to time. I can't really fathom what he thought was going to happen, and I really wonder if he goes through life having interactions like that and just thinking, man, the world is just so unfair to me. It was such a strange interaction with an adult bully, and honestly, I'm glad he got exactly what he deserved. Dude, I don't care who you are, you've got to be a special kind of stupid to start something at an airport. Like, people are already stressed out, at least where I'm from in America, where it's like, dude, going through an airport literally feels like walking through a prison. So for this guy to do this in another country, and in Japan at that, you know, the one country that has a growing distaste for foreigners being in their country, like, bro, you're just asking for disaster. So man, I love the fact that he got his flight canceled. That's absolutely what he deserves, because this behavior is really toxic and no one should have to deal with this. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my coworker any of the chocolates I had for lunch? Because after I said she couldn't have any, she basically went to my manager and said I'm faking having diabetes, which seriously blows my mind, and I simply just can't get over it. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context before I begin, I am diabetic, meaning that I need to carry something sweet around with me at all times in case my blood sugar is too low. So in my workplace during lunch, my coworkers and I usually just share our lunch with each other and give each other like little bits of whatever we're eating. But the catch is we always do this for something in return. It's honestly just a really nice thing that we do together, and obviously if you don't feel comfortable with giving some of your food, you don't have to. Well, I guess that rule didn't apply to one of my coworkers, as today at lunch, I was just casually eating my sandwich with my bar of chocolate on the table. Then one of my coworkers came up to me and said, hey, give me some of that, which was kind of rude, but I didn't really care that much, so I broke off a piece of my sandwich and I handed it to her. However, she suddenly exclaimed, not that idiot, you're chocolate. I then explained that I was not comfortable giving her any, as the reasons I mentioned above, mostly because there wasn't much left and I wanted to make sure that I had enough throughout the day. She then said to me, well, it's just a couple of pieces. I don't think it's gonna hurt that much, will it? And also, she said this in a really sarcastic tone, so that also kind of pissed me off. But after I still refused to give her my chocolate, she literally stormed off. And because of the scene that she made, some of my other coworkers tried to explain to her why I didn't want to give my chocolate to her, but she just blew them off. Now get this, because this really is the best part here. She actually complained to my manager later on, saying that I'm not sharing and that I'm actually faking my diabetes just so I don't have to give up any of my food. Now, thankfully, my manager is not an idiot and explained how I need the chocolate for my health and how it was disrespectful of her to think that I was faking it. So honestly, throughout all this, I'm just thankful that my manager was there for basically saving my butt. But seriously, I need to know, like, am I really the jerk for not giving up my chocolate to this idiot? Because I'm still very confused by this and I'm kind of pissed off about it. No, you're not the jerk. This lady's weird. Seriously, she came over here and was like, give me your chocolate right now. No, I'm not going to trade with you. Why would I do that? This is clearly the table where we get free food from each other. But in my opinion, that chocolate might as well be like medical supplies. Like, you obviously need it. You need that to make sure your blood sugar's not too low. And it's the part where this lady like refused to hear anything you had to say and be like, oh, I can't believe this. Where she really thought she was going to get you in trouble with the manager over something like this. Like, that is so stupid in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk. This is literally someone from the office who will always be miserable no matter what. And the way they reacted in this situation is kind of evidence of that. My boss is expecting me to give a percentage of my tips over to the kitchen at the serving job I currently work at. And after busting my butt and doing so much, I'm honestly exhausted. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been working as a server at this place for about a year, and today was crazy busy. For reference, this is a small restaurant where a good day is 2,000 in total, and today was well over 4,000. Not only am I a server, but I also clean all the tables, I seat people, I make drinks, I make certain food items, I restock materials, I answer phone calls, and I pack to-go orders. I mean, I worked a 10-hour shift where I left 30 minutes after the shift because people stayed late. The kitchen staff has always left on time, and today wasn't an exception. There are only 2 servers in the entire restaurant, and we do basically everything but cooking and washing dishes. And it was very tiring with no breaks for lunch or anything like that. We made almost $600 in tips today, which is a lot for us. So, split between me and the other server, we would have made like $300 each. My boss, however, after the shift ends, asks us to give a percentage of our tips, where it was like maybe like 20%, over to the kitchen, because he said, well, they were busy today as well. I get paid $7 an hour in a place where minimum wage is $16. And trust me, the kitchen staff is getting paid at least minimum wage. He even asked me what percentage I think I should give the kitchen, even though I've never been asked to split tips with the kitchen before. And you know what? I told him to just give whatever he wants. I obviously couldn't tell him no because he is my boss, but it's so frustrating. There was also one particular day in the past where he had taken 50% of my tips because he said he helped out because I was all alone and it was really busy. And his idea of helping, by the way, was moving the food from one corner of the kitchen over to the other corner while also ordering me to do this and that while I'm already swamped. I don't know, I'm super tired and I'm very upset, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Holy crap, what your boss is doing is illegal. In the United States, your tips are your property as a server, meaning that your boss cannot keep it. He can't do what he's doing. If he really wants his kitchen staff to be paid more, then guess what? He needs to pay them more. That shouldn't be coming out of your pocket. Like, what's going on right now? This is illegal. And I mean like actually illegal in the United States. This is all under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Literally, all tips are considered the property of the employee who received them. So this guy's like completely stealing from you, like full stop. Like, if this was me, I would happily report him. I would take every note and use every single instance as a separate report. And then if he tries to fire me over this, I would sue him for retaliation. Like, I really hope anybody listening here knows that they absolutely have way more power than you think. You can report your manager. You can get them in trouble for breaking the law. It is completely possible, and in my opinion, if there is a violation, they deserve to get in trouble. Like, seriously, look this up. The United States Department of Labor classifies withholding tips as wage theft. And I don't know about you, but dude, if you're a longtime listener, kind of like I'm a longtime narrator, then we're probably in the same camp where we're both really jaded about like crappy managers and all the horrifying situations we've read about on this channel. So I think I'm completely down the deep end of like, yes, report them, do it. Because holy crap, your boss doesn't own you. This guy literally is supposed to pay you what you're worth, and your tips are your property. They don't belong to the kitchen. They don't belong to anybody else. Like, screw that. So in my opinion, I think it's time for you to realize how much power you really do have in this situation and how much you really can do to be like, oh no, I'm absolutely not tipping anybody out. This is my property. I'm going to keep it and I'm not going to give it up, because that is literally your right in the United States. Like, if you live somewhere else, I don't know what to tell you, but at least in my country, that is absolutely the way it should be. Am I the jerk for not letting a little kid and his mom go in front of me in the line at Costco? Because after I said no, she made a huge deal out of it, making me feel really self-conscious and kind of second-guessing all of my decisions. And now I'm just not sure if I made a mistake or not. Here's what happened. Okay, so I went to Costco yesterday to pick up a couple of things for the weekend. I went right around dinner time, which is a terrible time to go if you know Costco, because it gets really crazy. And guess what? It was super busy, and I've been waiting in line for over 10 minutes, and I just wanted to go home after being at had work all day. Well, right when I was next in line, a woman with a little boy who was maybe 6 years old came up behind me with an almost full cart. The kid was being really whiny and yelling a bit, saying that he wanted to go home, and I could tell some people around us were already annoyed. Well, this entitled mom then tapped me on the shoulder and asked if they could go in front of me because she had had a really long day and her son just really wanted to go home. Now, I really did feel bad for her. Like, seriously, I did. But at the same time, I felt the same as them, and I just wanted to go home too. I also only had like maybe 8 things in total, whereas on the other hand, she had basically a full cart of stuff. I apologized, but I said no, as I'd been waiting for a long time, and there was a massive line behind me too. I told her, well, maybe if she had only a few things, but it wasn't fair to everybody just waiting patiently. She then kind of scoffed at me and said, seriously, you don't have any compassion for a tired child? I then told her that I did, but it's not really my issue and I don't know her either. She wouldn't stop bugging me about it though, and genuinely just wouldn't leave me alone. So here's where I may have been a jerk. I told her that she was acting entitled and that I didn't have to let her in front of me if I didn't want to. Now at this moment, a lot of people were looking, since this lady had been causing a massive scene for literally no reason, and I kind of felt like people were looking at me like I should have just given in and that I was the one being rude. I still just don't think though that it would have been the right thing to do, even though I still felt bad for her son. What made me feel worse is this older lady a few spots behind me in line let her go in front of her, and she also was someone who scowled at me. I'm really not sure if I was a jerk, so I would appreciate the feedback, especially so I know what to do if something like this ever happens to me again. Okay, I'm gonna sound like a monster, but the second someone's like, oh, don't you have any compassion for my tired child? I would have happily looked at her and been like, nope, I don't care at all. Because seriously, you don't care about your kid being tired either. You're only using your kid as some kind of like guilt-tripping pawn in like this weird game of chess I never signed up for. Because holy crap, I'm not responsible for you not being able to get in line on time. And also, I have 8 items, whereas you got a full basket of crap, dude. I'm not gonna wait behind you. I want to get out the door. I'm the next one to go. And that lady probably only went up to you because you're young, and for reference, the original poster's 18, and they thought, okay, I could probably take advantage of this person. Like, this idiot probably does this all the time. Like, dude, you're not at fault here. Anyone looking at you and being like, oh wow, I can't believe this person didn't let them in front. Those people are idiots and probably would do the same thing. So I would not be bothered by this. I would say no every single time, especially if they have a cart full of stuff. And you've been waiting a long time. Like, that's really annoying, and she should absolutely know better. My entitled extended family demands that they be allowed to build an entirely new house in our backyard. And now that we're being told about this literally at the last second, my aunt is on her way to try and sort out the details. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so honestly, how do I even start this? A few years back, I think maybe about 2023, we started having some issues concerning the house we currently live in. The usual family drama caused by golden children, namely my aunt mainly at the moment, of who gets the house and etc. when grandma passes away. There's been fights concerning putting legal paperwork in order, to my grandmother and aunt wanting to sell the house right under our noses, to wanting to take the whole basement that's currently my brother's workshop, where they would toss all of his stuff out to make an apartment for my aunt and uncle when they come to visit here. They have plots to throw me, my mom, and my brother out of the house, to even my aunt accusing my mom of mistreating my grandmother. We've had everything happen practically, but recently some things came up that really made this so much worse. My grandmother came back from staying with my aunt and uncle for the holidays out in the States, and this is where she apparently put them through heck and back. And for reference, my grandma is a huge narcissist, but somehow, despite all of that, my aunt and grandma made plans to build a house in the backyard for my aunt. And this is all without telling us until the very last minute. So it starts off like this. Me, my mom, and my brother are in the living room when my grandma comes down and says the following. My grandma says, "Grandson, I would like to talk to you." My brother then jumps in with suspicion and says, "What do you want?" Whenever you start a sentence like that, it's because you want something. But my grandma said, No, I just wanted to ask you a question, just out of curiosity. Your aunt wants to build a house in the backyard. Would that even be possible? Well, my brother then raised his eyebrow, already smelling the next round of family conflict. He then said, well, you could, but it would be illegal. And the house would just most likely collapse because, for one, there's a sewer drainage system back there. Secondly, the ground back there isn't solid at all, so it's a big risk making a house back there when the ground is sinking. Third, you can't just build a house right behind this house, because you'd have no proper exit in case of emergencies. Also, you'd have to segregate the land, and both mom, uncle, and you would need to sign that you're giving that part to my aunt. And also, you need to get permissions and permits to build back there if you want to do it legally, which will be near impossible. Then again though, it's not like aunt is gonna listen. She'll do what she wants even if someone is telling her that's a bad idea. Now at this point, my mom and I are just silently listening to the entire thing, and we're actively thinking in our heads, oh man, here we go again. Because because trust me, this is just the beginning of our troubles. My grandma then says, oh, well, you all sort that out with your aunt. I clean my hands of this. I have nothing to do with this. Middle daughter, you talk to your sister. And then after that, my aunt texts my mom something along the lines of, hey sister, so I've been thinking about building a house for myself in the backyard over there. You know, since I'm not getting any younger here. My health isn't great at the moment, and if anything happens to my boyfriend, I won't get the house. And the house will go to his kids, and they'll most likely just sell the house. And then I won't have anywhere to go. I've been thinking about this for a long time now, and I brought it up to mom, and she's on board. And I already talked to our brother yesterday, and he's okay with it. But I really can't wait any longer because of my health. I've been waiting to get the basement for 5 years already, but it's like pulling teeth with you. I really don't understand what your deal is. You always act like we're attacking you, but we're not. I don't understand why we can't all get along like family and communicate properly. If it makes you feel better, brother has agreed to give up his share of the house and give it to you. But here's the thing, all of this was a complete lie. It turns out she had been already talking to a guy to build the house and made plans for what she wants it to look like, and because she has the money for it, she had this thought out for a long time now. And we only know this because my brother found out from our second cousin. Now supposedly my aunt is coming out here to sort all of this out soon, so I'm honestly so worried about how this is gonna go down because at this point I really don't know what to do. Your aunt is unbelievably toxic. Think about it for a second. She's like, oh man, I've already talked to your brother. I'm gonna build a house back there. I just want to communicate properly. Like seriously, what's the problem? And it's like, yeah, I wonder why we can't communicate properly. And it's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because you want to build a house in the backyard? For starters, the brother in this story literally said everything I was thinking. The house is not going to be solid. It's going to fall apart. There's no drainage or like water system. It's like, what are we doing right now? This is crazy. Is she going to tap into the other house to try and like siphon energy off of that? Like this lady is so selfish. This is so dumb. And it doesn't help that the grandma's like, okay, I'm washing my hands of this. Because it's like, wait a second, you've clearly been colluding in this. You've obviously been like having discussions about this in general. And now you're going to try and be like, oh, I have nothing to do with it now. This is no longer my problem. See ya. It's like, no, I don't think so. That's not how this works. If you're in for a penny, then you're in for a pound. So yeah, your aunt is incredibly crazy. She really thought she could get away with this literally by lying to your face, especially when she had everything set up already. And I guarantee you, if this went south in some kind of way, where the local government got involved and said, hey, you can't build a second house next to this other house, she would then suddenly turn into this big victim of the situation and somehow try to blame it on you, your mom, and your brother. You know, the people who live there and occupy that property. So seriously, for the sake of your family, I hope all of this gets worked out, because what you're going through right now, in my opinion, sounds incredibly obnoxious. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mother bought me a present for Christmas that I have explicitly stated I have no interest in, and now I feel very stuck and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm 29 years old, and my mother got me a pair of Birkenstock sandals for the summer for Christmas, and I absolutely hate them, and I've told her this before. I sound so ungrateful and I hate my attitude, but it's also what I know this represents. She keeps going on about these shoes, and every time before she gave them to me, I said I have no interest in them, which is the truth. I have sandals already, which do me fine, meaning that I did not need new shoes. Well, she has her own, and I feel she's trying to inflict this on me. Well, every Sunday when I would see her in the summer on a day off, she would comment on what I was wearing. She would say, why are you wearing sandals? Or on another day be like, well, at least you're wearing sandals today. And at this point, I'm already dreading the summer now because I know this will be the existence of every Sunday. She'll say to me, good, you're wearing your Birkenstocks. They're great shoes, aren't they? And I have no choice but to go along with it, or else I'm going to be seen as the worst person in the world. I have stated on so many occasions that I do not like the brand. I don't find the shoes comfortable at all. I'm also trying to improve my spending and saving habits, so I refuse to buy things I don't need a duplicate of and cut down on what I don't need, basically making this quality over quantity. And that's another reason I can't stand having the new shoes. I know I didn't pay for them, but I also do not need them. My current ones work perfectly, even at around 6 years old. I wore them all summer long and I love them. I went to Rome in August doing around 30 to 40,000 steps a day, and they really were ideal. She does it constantly with 2 pairs of shoes that she has already bought me. Whenever I wear them, she comments or asks, oh, you're lucky to have those shoes. Are they not super comfortable? And she does this every single time. And look, they are only shoes. It's absolutely harmless, but it's still very strange that she has to do it every single time. I think my issue lies more with what I know this represents rather than the shoes. I remember looking at them when I got them in the box, and there's even a separate toe slit as well, which I completely detest. I feel so ungrateful grateful because her intentions were good, and she spent a lot of money too. So seriously, what do you think? Why is she trying to push this onto me when I've said I'm not interested? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I do think I understand where you're coming from, but also it really does seem like your mom cares about you. Like, I think you're reading this right by basically assuming, yeah, she means well and this really was supposed to be a good thing, but that doesn't ignore the fact that you really don't want them. You seriously just don't need these things. And I also can't ignore the fact that she is constantly talking to you about this, because if that were me, I would be super annoyed. So I know if I was in that situation, I would probably try and go about this in a casual way and try to go around her in a way where it's like, yes, I'm wearing them to satisfy your need to see them, but also I'm gonna mix it up and wear something else. And if she does try to be like, wait, where's the Birkenstock? You could just be like, oh, I decided to switch it up today and wear something else. And just try to keep it casual overall, regardless of however she acts. So yeah, hopefully this works out, because honestly, I can completely understand why you would be getting frustrated. An entitled Karen comes to my grocery store demanding that we cook a turkey for her so that she can have it for Thanksgiving. But despite the fact that we have signs literally all over the store explaining to her that we're out of product, she still was not having any of that, choosing instead to act incredibly entitled and very obnoxious. Here's what happened. During college, I had two jobs. One was at a pizza restaurant, and the other was at a localized but very prolific grocery store chain. Think a few hundred stores all in the same couple of counties in the same US state. I primarily worked in the deli and hot food section of the grocery store. We had a very nice commercial rotisserie oven that we could spit something like 30 chickens on at once. Now, for the chickens we used, and it is crucial to note, were not taken from other stores' meat section, but they were shipped to us separately from the supplier. They were sized up, contained packets of the seasoning mix that we were supposed to sprinkle on them, were already pre-cleaned, and had been mechanically drilled through so we could easily spit them onto the large rotating arms of the commercial grade rotisserie. This last step is crucial, because if you try to force an improperly prepped bird onto one of those very large spit arms, the odds are high the bird will fall apart into the oven and start to burn up and smoke. Usually, we cooked enough chickens each day to meet everybody's demands, but every once in a while when we had an unusually busy day and ran out when it was too late to make more, we would have a customer bring a whole chicken from the meat section and ask if we could cook it. Well, mercifully, we would explain all of the above, plus the fact that we weren't going to run the entire expensive oven for just one bird. People would then typically say, oh, okay, I understand, and then leave without pestering us further. In fact, most people began the inquiry by saying, I know the answer is probably no, but here's what I want to do. So overall, they weren't too disappointed. Sometimes we'd get a remark from our manager afterwards about how we should have prepped more birds, but that was all the extent of it. Well, with that bit of context out of the way, this is where our story starts. It was well publicized that this chain of stores around the United States during Thanksgiving offered a pre-cooked meal special. But here's the thing, you had to pre-order it well in advance. The reason being is that part of that special involved us stocking a fixed amount of turkeys that were specially prepped for the oven, just like our chickens usually were, and that way we could cook it in the rotisserie. In fact, we would have a special crew to stay after closing the day before Thanksgiving just to cook these turkeys and their accompanying sides overnight. That way people could just pick them up Thanksgiving morning. Once we had taken enough pre-orders to account for all of our turkeys, we couldn't take any more orders because the supplier wouldn't send any more turkeys. This was well publicized in all of our TV ads. This was also on signs on the door and the deli and the cash register, not to mention the website. I mean, if you name it, it described it. Well, one year we were swamped with pre-orders, and in fact, we actually ran out of pre-drilled turkeys about 10 days prior to Thanksgiving, whereas usually it's about 3 or 4 days prior. My manager, foreseeing potential disaster, bought some really bright neon colored paper and wrote in black bold letters that we could no longer take pre-orders and that we were out of turkeys. He posted these signs all over the store, every entrance, every exit, the frozen section, the produce section, the butcher, the dry goods, and of course our own section in the deli and hot foods. Well, we get through the next couple of days just fine, and his plan seemed to have worked. But then, the day before Thanksgiving, an entitled old Karen enters our story. And yes, she had that certain haircut. Quite literally with one of my manager's childish neon with black letters, you can't possibly miss it signs right next to her. She starts giving off this sob story and starts begging and pleading with me, trying to somehow get a Thanksgiving meal pre-order in for her. I try to be as nice to her as I possibly can, initially thinking that she's distraught, but then she suddenly runs off. I think that's the end of it, but then she comes back with a truly gigantic turkey from the frozen meat section. She looks at me and says, "Here, I brought you a turkey, put it in with the others." Now, at this point, I have to take a deep breath and try to explain why I can't do that. The bird isn't prepped, the bird is too big and won't cook at the same speed as the others, and I also don't know how long she's had it out of the freezer, so it's also a sanitation issue. Not to mention that it's not drilled through, and I would tear it up trying to spit it. Well, she's having none of that. She just keeps on whining, "You can't be out of turkeys. There's so many in the back. I'll get a smaller one. I really need this." And naturally, I'm thinking to myself, why did you even think you would be able to come in the day before Thanksgiving anyways, when the store is slammed? Plus, the ad said, "Order now, order soon." And we've got signs saying that we ran out of turkeys 9 days ago. But of course, I can't say that. Finally, she swears under her breath a little and then she leaves. And I was just glad that it didn't go worse. But I know for a fact that she complained to corporate because, of course, my management came up to me and said that I got a complaint. I hate people who act like this. Like, seriously, it's just so annoying. There's no other way of putting it. They have signs plastered all over the store. "We don't have any more pre-orders. I'm sorry, but you can't get it here." And yet this lady's like, "Oh, come on. My situation is specific and just completely out of the ordinary. Cook this turkey for me because I need it right now." And it's like, seriously, your lack of planning is not my emergency, and I'm not going to be held hostage by your stupid decisions. So yeah, that entitled Karen was very stupid, and I'm so sorry that you had to put up with that. An entitled teacher demands that I get out of a classroom earlier than I signed up for, as she claims that she needs 15 minutes to prepare her stupid lesson, thus putting me in a really bad spot. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work at a college as a teacher's assistant and as a tutor. I only do science classes, but I am an assistant for one particular science class. I have my tutoring sessions in a room in the library twice a week for 30 minutes. Because it is a difficult class, we go quickly to cover everything and take up the whole 30 minutes. I also signed up for this room at this time before the semester even started. And let's say this is from 11:30 until 12 o'clock. On my very first day, I was told that I would need to be out exactly at 12 because there's a class after me. And I think to myself, okay, that's no problem. It takes me 1 minute to pack up and get out of the way. Easy peasy. Well, 15 minutes into my first session, this woman walks in looking very confused and asks me what's going on. I explain that I'm having my tutoring session, and if she's waiting for the class, it starts at 1. She then goes back and forth with me, perplexed about what I'm doing there, and finally mentions that she's the art teacher and she needs 15 minutes to prepare for her class. Now, it's a huge room, so I said I didn't mind if she gets ready in the back half of the room. Now, I was well within my rights to tell her no, that I have the room until 12, but I'm a nice person. Well, every single session, her students start coming in 15 minutes early, and I nicely tell them they can sit in the back of the room and that their class will start soon. It's a little disruptive, but it's not too bad. We're all getting into the swing of things after all. The art teacher, however, will come in early and very rudely tell me I need to hurry up and be out early. And she is so rude and condescending. She comes in and interrupts my session that I signed up for, also that she can start her class early. I understand that she needs time to prepare, but if she needed 15 extra minutes, then she should have signed up for 11:45 and not 12 o'clock. And she can't expect to just kick out whoever's in there. I am so fed up with her unprofessional and rude behavior. I've talked with my supervisor about it, who says I'm in the right and I have every right to be there until 12 o'clock. But it's all really frustrating. I'm thinking of sending an email and sending it to my supervisor and her supervisor, but I don't want to take that route. I just want to do my tutoring in peace and go about my day. I hate that she thinks she's entitled to the room during my time, and at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Oh man, I think you absolutely should raise this to the next level, because this idiot is literally interrupting your session. She's walking in there 15 minutes early and saying you need to hurry up and get out. Like, in my opinion, at that point, it's time to elevate this immediately. Anyone, and I mean anyone, talking to you like that is completely out of line. It would be at that moment I would be like, oh, you want to talk to me like that? Well then congratulations, I'm gonna get petty and weird. So that would mean if you're not a part of my tutoring session, then congratulations, you're not gonna be in my classroom, because the way she's treating you is absolutely unprofessional, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. My idiotic chef at the job I work at complained to corporate that I was slacking off and not doing my job. So I decided to get some petty revenge by exposing the fact that this guy doesn't do anything at work either. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So I got hired as a line cook when I got out of culinary school, and it was for a big hotel chain. I got hired for the day-to-day work, and we had 8 other line cooks and a head chef who was always bragging about his workload and how he spared us from the paper monster. The head chef was, for a better word, absent from the kitchen floor and basically was a pencil pusher. He did the ordering, the stocking, the timesheets, the rosters, as well as the schedules, and communication with HR, the general manager, and he made all the menus. For the most part, the work paid okay, and there was not much hassle. Thing was, the menus that we had to cook were outdated and very uninspiring. And when I say uninspiring, think about a cookbook from 70 years ago. That's basically what I'm talking about. At some point, we as a kitchen team were done with that, and we requested that we make the menus. And the head chef, for for some reason was happy to oblige. So now here comes the kicker. We had an after-hours menu with simple meals, BLT, pizza, salad, soups, fries, hamburgers, and for some reason, corporate decided that the after-hours menu had to go and it's going to be replaced by the normal day-to-day menu. Well, this led to the following situation. Almost nobody ordered food during the night shift. It turns out when people come to a hotel late, they are either too tired or too drunk to eat a meal that takes around 15 minutes to serve, or they're in no mood for sauteed salmon in white wine sauce. This went on for like a year and corporate saw the nosedive in the night shift revenue across the board, and they made the only logical decision to combat this problem. They fired all the night shift line cooks, or relocate them to other hotels if they could not be fired. Of course, the after-hours menu was not changed, nor was it removed, and instead it meant the shift had to be picked up by another. So this is where the tale really begins. I worked there for about 2 years, and I got into some trouble with the head chef as we didn't see eye to eye. This then led to the following situation. I had to pick up almost every single night shift. I would come in at 4 in the afternoon and then leave at around 5 o'clock in the morning. I worked 40 hours on paper, but in reality, I worked around 50. I didn't mind as overtime was paid out, and me as a 21-year-old could do a lot with the paid out overtime. But the thing was, it was so boring. In the beginning, I cleaned the kitchen, checked the walk-ins for spoiled goods, set up a part of the breakfast, and did some minor paperwork. After about 3 weeks, I ran out of work to do. Every 2 or 3 days, I could clean something or check the fridges, but what at first took about an hour, now took like 10 to 15 minutes. So I did the logical thing and I started reading books, watching Netflix, talking to the night manager, starting to experiment with new recipes, and just hanging out with the interns. Basically, I just messed around on company time. So after a while, I got called into the office by the general manager. I got a verbal reprimand for slacking off. When I asked him why, he told me someone told him what I did during the night shift. So of course I explained to him what I did, and that in between these hours, I had very little to do. This led to a discussion between corporate, my general manager, and my union about what I could and could not do within the position that I was hired for. But at the end of that entire ordeal, I was tasked with the kitchen paperwork, and chef just unloaded his whole work week onto me, telling me to get to work and that the time for slacking was over. He said this all smug, and apparently he was assuming I would not finish this, or I would come begging for help. I had to do timesheets, order produce, and answer emails. Chef was always bragging about the work and that it took a whole week, but after one look, I knew he was not familiar with computers and the various programs he had to work with. So within a month, I had figured out that our time management system could be linked to our payroll system, and I only had to check if the breaks were logged correctly. Then I would hit the sync button and place the request for validation by my general manager or human resources. The same went for ordering software. I could upload a produce list and order from an iPad while walking around to different walk-ins and freezers. Also, I combined this with the 2-day spoil check. Within 2 months or so, I found out that the work schedule sheet could be copied to another week, and with another software link, I could sync up our human resources app so it would automatically generate a warning when someone was on leave or on vacation. It took me 2 night shifts to do all of the above, and the other 3 I could easily just slack on. Well, due to this, the chef had nothing to do in the office, and in turn, he was also slacking. He had literally nothing to do during the day, but just sit around in his office. Well, after about 2 months, somebody, and sure, I don't know who it was, slipped this info to the general manager, and after that, the chef had to work in the kitchen, and his 9 to 5 completely changed. He had to do breakfast shifts as he failed to do line cook work, since he was stuck 30 years in the past when sticking everything in jelly was a trend. Soon after this, corporate got wind of this great innovation, and asked our chef to document this all and send this over to them. When I left the company due to other reasons, corporate was contemplating cutting the head chef's position and making somebody else the manager responsible for the kitchen. So all in all, I'm so glad I got back at my chef, because that guy ruined a really good job in my life. I find this so funny because the chef was lazy just as much as the original poster, and it's nobody's fault, like seriously. I've been in jobs like that where it's like, oh man, there's nothing to do and I've literally completed my job for the list. I guess it's time to sit around and do nothing and hope that I don't get caught. So for the chef to turn around and be like, wow, you're being lazy, the time for slacking's over. That is so ironic to me because that is exactly what he was doing. So it's really cool to see that you gave him a taste of his own medicine. My selfish, entitled friend demands that I allow him to propose to his girlfriend at my extravagant birthday dinner. And despite the fact that I told him no, he can't do that, as well as taking all the time to plan this special celebration, this jerk still decided to go against my wishes and propose right there on the spot to his girlfriend. And now as a result, my friends are telling me that I should be happy for them and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But at this point, I'm honestly super pissed off and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. I'm a 27-year-old female, and I recently hosted a small birthday party at a nice restaurant. It wasn't anything extravagant, just a dinner with about 15 close friends and family. I was excited because I don't usually throw big birthday celebrations, and I wanted to enjoy the night with the people that I care about. A few days before the party, my friend, who we will call Mark, pulled me aside and asked if he could propose to his girlfriend, who we will call Sarah, at my birthday dinner. He said it would be the perfect setting because all of our friends would be there and that this would make the night extra special. But you know what? I told him no. I said I was happy for him and Sarah, but this was my birthday and I didn't want the focus shifted away from that. And while he did look a little disappointed, he said that he understood. And trust me, this will be important later on. Well, fast forward to the dinner and everything was going great until Mark suddenly stood up, clinked his glass, and started giving a speech. Now, at first, I thought he was going to say something about my birthday, but no, I was completely wrong. He got down on one knee and proposed to Sarah right there at the party. Now, obviously, Sarah was overjoyed. Everyone started clapping, and suddenly, my birthday dinner turned into their engagement celebration. I was stunned and honestly pretty pissed off, but I didn't want to make a scene. I just smiled and went along with it. Afterward, I pulled Mark aside and I asked him why he did that when I already told him no. He then just shrugged his shoulders and said, "I knew you'd understand. It was too perfect of a moment to pass up." I then told him I felt disrespected, and he suddenly got defensive, saying I was being selfish because a proposal's a bigger deal than a birthday. Well, now some of my mutual friends are saying that I should be happy for them and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing, but I can't help but feel like my night was completely hijacked. So seriously, am I the jerk for being upset that my friend proposed at my birthday party after I explicitly told him not to? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off. Okay, I really need to get this out there because I kind of sense a theme when it comes to people proposing at other engagements. And I mean like stuff like a wedding or a birthday party or like a baby shower or something like that. The only reason he's like, oh yeah, this would be the perfect setting is because he's not paying for it and he didn't organize anything that you're doing. Like that's literally the only reason he's like, oh, this would be perfect. I knew you would understand. And it's like, yeah, I understand that you're a terrible friend and you're not welcome to anything I ever do again. Him saying that it's the perfect setting is basically him admitting that he's too stupid and lazy to organize this himself. And instead of doing the legwork himself, he would rather just mooch off of your hard work and reap the rewards of your planning instead of doing it himself. That really is unbelievably toxic, and I don't blame you for being pissed off. Like, you would think at this point in life, people would understand that this is not a good thing to do. It is entirely taboo to go against someone else's wishes, and for even like asking that in the first place. And sure, it's just a birthday party, but guess what? It's your birthday party. This is something that you planned with your friends and family, and this guy completely ruined that. And the fact that anybody is trying to be like, oh, you should just be happy for them. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's like, oh, okay, is he gonna pay for like, I don't know, any reservation fees for the restaurant? Or like any party planning expenses that you had to like take on your back? Like, this is so dumb, and I just can't believe anybody would be on his side. So no, you're not the jerk for calling this guy out. What he did was completely out of line, and I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would have chewed this guy out and told him exactly how I felt, because the fact that he ruined this party is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for how I handled my son's girlfriend spending the night? Because right now my daughter's pissed off at me and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I have two children. I have a 21-year-old daughter that we will call Donna and a 19-year-old son that we will call Austin. Both of them live at home, but they also stay on campus at their respective colleges. Austin has a girlfriend who we will call Bridget, with whom he's been dating for nearly a year. Early in their relationship, Bridget stayed over once while Donna was at school, and with Donna's blessing, Bridget slept in Donna's room and Austin stayed in his own. They chose to sleep separately and there was no drama. Well, this winter break, both kids were home. Toward the end of the break, Bridget returned from out of state but couldn't move back into her dorm yet. Austin then asked if she could stay with us for a few days, and I agreed but mentioned that we would need to figure out sleeping arrangements since we don't have a guest room. All we have are mine and my husband's room, Austin's room, and Donna's room. Austin said that he and Bridget now share a bed, but his twin bed would be a very tight fit. Donna, on the other hand, has a full-size bed, so I suggested Donna and Austin switch rooms temporarily. Donna could use Austin's bed and Austin and Bridget would stay in hers. I assured Donna that I changed the bedding afterwards, but she was visibly upset and asked why Austin couldn't just sleep on the couch. I told her it was only for a few days, and since Austin wanted to share a bed with Bridget, this arrangement made sense. When Bridget arrived, everything seemed fine at first. That night, Bridget went to bed early, and Donna pulled Austin aside in the kitchen. I couldn't hear the start of their conversation, but but Austin suddenly started yelling. He shouted, "Shut up, why do you always say that?" all before storming into the living room. He loudly announced that he would never invite Bridget back if everything is such a problem. When I asked what happened, Austin explained that Donna asked him not to spend quality time with Bridget in her bed, and I think you know what I'm referring to. He claimed that he had no intention of doing that and accused Donna of being weird and trying to cause trouble. Donna said that she had purposefully tried to talk to Austin quietly just to avoid any kind of scene, and she hadn't said anything to Bridget. She also said it wasn't unreasonable to ask, given that she knew that Austin and Bridget were very active, again, if you know what I mean. I then told Donna that she didn't need to make such a big deal since I had already promised to wash the sheets. Donna then became upset and ended up staying with a friend for the rest of the break. Well, fast forward and school has since resumed, but Donna is barely responding to my calls or my text messages. Austin told me Bridget overheard the argument and now feels uncomfortable being in our house or around Donna. Now, my husband said that Austin caused the scene by yelling and pointing out that Donna wasn't out of line for making her request. He also said I should never have let Bridget stay in the first place. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, there are so many things wrong with this, but let me just start off by saying that yes, you are absolutely the jerk. Because you know what? Donna's 100% right. Why couldn't Austin just sleep on the couch? Just because they sleep in the same bed doesn't mean they're gonna take Donna's bed. Like, if I was in Donna's shoes, I would be very pissed off. There is no way I would be okay with that, like at all, not for a second. And the fact that you tried to be like, oh, it's only for a few nights, it's no big deal. Just switch beds and stop being weird, I'll change the sheets. It's like, are you kidding me right now? I am not agreeing to this. This is so weird. You could have easily gotten an air mattress or something like that and been like, okay, sleep here. Instead of, I don't know, like uprooting Donna's living arrangement. So yes, I do think you're the jerk, and I think what you did is completely out of line, because that, in my opinion, was incredibly gross and very toxic. My husband gave me an ultimatum, stating that if I don't quit my side hustle teaching yoga, he's going to leave our marriage. So right now, I feel completely blindsided, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just got married a year and a half ago to the most incredible person. I just gotten out of a 6-year relationship, we were friends for a few months, and it quickly became every bit of a classic when you know for the both of us. Within 3 months, we had bought our first home, got engaged after 9 months, and then got married almost a year to the day with a dream destination wedding in Greece. And we've been together now for over 3 years. It's important to know we are in a multicultural marriage. My husband is Hindu Punjabi, and he immigrated from India over a decade ago, and I'm a white American. Greece was an equidistant travel for both of our families, who by the way get along famously and have really embraced our blending of cultures. We have a lot of family support on both sides. When we got married, we were on the same page about what we expected from each other and what we wanted. Our red lines were physical violence and cheating, with us agreeing that everything else could be figured out. And one of those things that we agreed on was fitness. In the early stages of our relationship, we worked out together constantly, we went on runs, etc. And we talked often about our mutual desire to continue to cultivate a long, healthy life together. Now, a few differences that need to be noted. He grew up in a household with very traditional gender roles in India, namely where his father was verbally awful to his mother, and he would go days giving her the silent treatment. My husband has also been open about how witnessing this affected him growing up. His parents have worked it out over time, but his mom has shared openly about this dynamic with me. His father rarely has to lift a finger at home, but worked very hard to provide for the family. So yes, a very traditional Indian culture. My husband has 2 sisters who both take a more modern approach to their relationships, and that seems to be accepted within the family. Now, my parents split responsibilities 50-50 as often as possible. Both work full-time, they've always been best friends, and I rarely saw them argue. Also, my husband is easily triggered and very reactionary. He works on it in his own way, but refuses to try individual therapy. Shortly after we got together, we moved to a new state for his job, about an hour north of the city where we met and had a lot of friends. He worked a mid-shift at the time, and wasn't getting home until 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning the first year of living in our new state. The hour drive made it harder to see friends regularly, and I was home alone all the time. Well, integrative nutrition and movement gave me my life back a few years ago after being diagnosed with a chronic illness. So after about a year of living in our new state, I found a local fitness studio to start taking classes to tone up for our wedding and to meet some friends. Also, my husband has had on and off issues with the herb, if you know what I mean. Very all or nothing kind of person, with no balance to when the herb is in the house, so that started to really creep back up just before we got married. It's a daily fight for him, and I'm here to help him through it. Every few months he does relapse, he goes on a bender and then realizes it's sending him into a deeper depression. Being loved by a supportive partner gave me another level of confidence. I felt like I could pursue just about anything, and we would somehow just make it work. I had been a fitness instructor in college, and I had always wanted to pick it back up. So with his late night schedule, I signed up for a yoga teacher training program and started the weekend we returned from our wedding. Now, this was an every other weekend intensive and a big time commitment, but I made a point to try my best to nurture our free time together. I ended up loving teaching yoga. I made lifelong friends and was the first in my cohort to be offered a job right after training at the studio. Teaching at this studio is highly competitive. Usually, you have to do a mentorship, but they let me get right on the schedule, and I was super thrilled. My husband then started experiencing pretty significant job stress around this time, and honestly, he was also dealing with a really awful boss situation, and I'm sure we've all been there. He then started showing symptoms of high-functioning depression. He was in bed for both weekend days, doom scrolling and watching football. He was withdrawn from activities that used to make him happy. He had no desire to spend time with friends and had limited energy to spend time with me. Now, his parents and my parents and some of our friends noticed the change. Instead of a partnership, he started expressing his desire for me to act more like a stay-at-home wife. Dinner on the table every night, house tidy as a main responsibility, but I also work a 9-to-5 remote from home, and I am the breadwinner. So it was really hard to have this expectation morph from a shared responsibility to solely being mine. All of this was building until we found out I had an aggressive form of pre-cancer and had to see a specialist for treatment in another state, which, by the way, this was 8-hour round trips every weekend for months. The whole thing seemed to give him purpose again, and confronted with my potential early mortality, we spent our car rides talking about our dreams and life goals. We dreamed up the idea to start a matcha and cold-pressed juice camper to have a little side business together on the weekends, and started moving forward with that, but as soon as I got the all clear last June, he fell right back into a depressive episode. I tried to plan small activities without putting too much on his plate, since work stress was at an all-time high, but after a while, he started to resent me for keeping him away from being in bed. I continued with our business plans alone, kept teaching yoga, working my 9-to-5, and holding it down for him at home, but no amount of me would help him pull out of the work, then bed, then depression cycle. In his darker moments, he expressed that he felt like my job teaching yoga was taking away from my ability to be there for him. When I asked for specifics, he would just tell me, "Oh, you should just know," and that no matter what I did, I was somehow falling short. At this point, I had fallen in love with teaching yoga. In fact, my classes started waitlisting. Helping my students gave me passion and purpose, and I had finally found real community, which was such a bright spot when there was no effort being put into our partnership at home. Our fights began to escalate, and I found myself on the receiving end of low blows, as well as name-calling and verbal mistreatment. I tried so hard to meet him where he was and stay neutral and non-reactive, but you can only be called the B word so many times without losing it on occasion. This past November, he was promoted and finally had normal work hours again. I switched my workout schedule at the studio to mornings so that I could be there for him when he got home at night, with the exception of one night a week. When I got offered a second class and weekend spot on the yoga schedule, and this is because my first class was doing so well, I wanted to accept it immediately, but made a point to ask him first. He then said he was okay with it, but hated the idea. Over the past year of teaching, it's been hard seeing other instructors' friends' husbands show up for them, and there's just something about this gig that my husband just hates, and I wish he could be just as supportive and proud, but anytime I spend at the yoga studio, which is at max maybe 3 hours weekly, he's expressed that it takes away from him somehow. A girlfriend of mine, who my husband knows well, and I thought likes as a human being, from the yoga studio that I go to, came over Monday night to do a little bit of extra work on a series that we're doing together. I cooked dinner for all of us, I made sure my husband had what he needed, and after my friend left, I got in bed and I gave him a hug, only to then be met by him saying, "Get the F away from me," followed by 48 hours of silent treatment, despite my pleading to try and have a conversation. Last night, he came to me and said, "It's yoga or it's me. You have until Sunday to quit your teaching job or I'm leaving our marriage." And now I'm just completely gutted. I've tried to offer a compromise and even offered to take a short leave of absence from teaching, but he refuses to speak to me until I make my decision on Sunday, and apparently it's all or nothing. Movement has saved my mental health. I have found so much purpose through teaching. Having a student approach me to tell me that they sleep better on nights that they had taken one of my classes, or that they feel more relaxed or inspired in any way, just absolutely lights me up. I finally feel seen standing up there, and I've somehow gotten good at it. I love being of service to other people. Yoga has transformed my mental health so much that I stepped away from therapy in 2023, but out of desperation, I reached out to my former psychologist for an emergency session this morning, who told me to hold the line and not quit just because he's threatening to leave. Hearing her say that the hardest thing you'll ever do is say no, and then watch what he does next, has ripped me to my very core. I still love this man and desperately want to make it work, even though I know if I were to hear this story from a friend or stranger, they would tell me to run away. I finally told my parents what's been going on, and they are supportive. I also quietly reached out to his sister, who reassured me that we are family and they would knock some sense into him. But seriously, am I missing something here? This ultimatum seems like it's about something so much deeper than my yoga job, but it's ripping me apart that the person I love wants me to quit something I've become so passionate about. What should I do? Okay, this is so messed up because you literally have done nothing wrong. First and foremost, your husband's being a massive jerk, and the fact that he's giving you an ultimatum, as well as treating you the way his dad treated his mom, in my opinion, is a massive, giant red flag. Because yeah, you're right, if anyone else told you this story, you would tell them to run away. The fact that he's trying to be like, oh, you need to quit your job as a yoga instructor or we're getting a divorce. That is such a giant leap in logic, it's not even funny. You're literally doing everything around the house, you're holding a full-time job, you're trying to pull him out of this depressive episode, and now he's trying to sit there and be like, oh, I want to be depressed. Let me just stay in bed all day. By the way, quit your job. It's like, dude, this is so stupid. You're literally getting upset about something that doesn't affect you. You've even changed your studio times to the morning so that you literally will be there for him and spend more quality time with your husband. And it's like you already do everything around the house and you're waiting on him practically hand and foot. This guy's still like, no, get away from me. Giving you the silent treatment for what, 2 days? What is he, a child? Like, this is so stupid. Because when you started out explaining what's going on, you describe him as like a good person and a really good man, but clearly the honeymoon period is over. And I don't know about anybody else listening, but there's no way I would ever get married to someone that fast. I better know everything about them, or they better be someone who's undeniably perfect in every way possible. Because that, in my opinion, is just really quick, but that's neither here nor there. I think more to the point, the fact that this guy gave you an ultimatum proves to me that this guy has some serious mental health issues, and maybe he's coming from a place of jealousy that you seem to be living your best life while he's sitting in bed rotting away and just doom scrolling. Which, by the way, hey, fun fact, that's not your fault. You're literally doing everything right, and this guy's trying to drag you down with him. So no, you are not the jerk, you didn't do anything wrong, and the fact that your husband is treating you this way is honestly unacceptable, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for making my husband leave work early so that he could give me the car keys that he took with him to work? Because right now I feel bad, but I'm also incredibly annoyed, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I really feel awful about this, but my husband has a habit of forgetting or just ignoring things that I say. I work from home, and I'm always there to unlock the front door for my husband when he gets back from work. So the couple of times I've needed the car, I get very annoyed that he's taken the house keys attached to the car keys with him. And this has happened a few times. He will lock all the house doors in the morning and go off to work with the car keys so I can neither leave the house nor drive anywhere. So I made sure that we had 2 sets of keys, and the second pair must always be on the console table for emergencies. Well, the problem is, my husband started keeping the emergency keys in his work bag, and if he took the car anywhere, I was again locked in the house. This recently happened again when my family was coming over, and they stood at the locked door while I searched the house for his work bag. Well, today, I woke up very unwell, and in between my meetings, I wanted to run to the chemist, while also wanting to pick up a book that I had on hold at the library, when once again, my husband had taken the car keys. What made me so angry was that I have told him this a million times, and I could have had a massive emergency. He was so calm and apologetic on the phone, but this honestly just made me more angrier. I am just so sick of him never listening. So I lost it, and I demanded he come home immediately and drop the keys back because I need to go to the chemist. He started apologizing and saying he has a meeting at work about to start, but I told him this is not a discussion, and I expect him back home right now because I am sick of repeating myself. Now, he said he's on his way back, but I feel so awful stressing him out while he's at work and making him take a 40-minute journey back. But I'm also so desperate to be heard the first time, which is exactly how I listen and respect his wishes. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. This really could get on my nerves pretty quickly, especially when there's not an extra pair of keys in the house. And don't get me wrong, I think the principle of the matter is super important here, where you quite literally just want him to hear what you're saying, but I would say at your earliest convenience, make a spare copy of everything, and keep that on you at all cost. Because what you're describing sounds really frustrating, like that would piss me off so bad, especially when you're sick and you need to go to the chemist. And for people in America, that's another name for pharmacist. Like if I was in that scenario, I would be so annoyed. I'd be like, listen, I feel like garbage. I need the car keys. I need to go somewhere. Like you can't do this to me. So no, with all things considered, you're not the jerk. And hopefully this is a wake-up call for this guy where he's like, okay, I've got to start listening to my wife, because his behavior is super annoying and I don't blame you for getting upset in the way that you did. My father's entitled psycho girlfriend completely cuts off the family after my father has has a serious medical emergency, forcing him to be in the hospital for a week, while also leaving all of us in the dark. And after navigating this entitled Karen for so many years, me and the rest of this family are fed up with this woman. And right now, we're honestly not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my dad has this longtime girlfriend who I will call Big Peach. And trust me, this is the biggest Karen you will ever meet in your life. She's got a fake tan, she's got pink hair, and she has the general resemblance to a giant peach. She is absolutely awful. My siblings and I hate her, and frankly, the feeling is definitely mutual. She lies, manipulates, and boundary stomps, all while trying to keep up this fake too sweet act where she would say, "Oh, I'm not trying to be a bother." And trust me, this is a very long situation and story. So anyway, 6 years in, and she's still pulling her stunts and getting away with it. But I've come to accept that dad is happy for some reason, and I have found ways to see him without her. But this particular series of events was way too much. I'm honestly fed up, and this is the last straw for me and my sisters. Now, for a bit more context, my dad was helping a friend do some work on a roof, and he actually fell. The scaffolding broke underneath him, and he fell 2 stories. An ambulance was called, and the friend went with him to the hospital. For some reason, the first person he called was Big Peach. She's been trouble ever since then. He apparently feels awful both for the accident and the drama our family is still experiencing. We didn't have much information for the first couple of days, since Big Peach kept as much from us as she could. She only contacted my younger sister about what happened, completely downplaying everything. My sister explained that Big Peach had told her that dad had broken his shoulder after a fall, but it wasn't serious, that there was nothing that we could do, and that we shouldn't even bother coming to the hospital as she has his phone, so don't bother calling him, and to tell me that he won't be home anytime soon. And for reference, I live with him, but my sisters do not. And my little sister was really alarmed at that last point. She kept messaging about when will dad get his phone back, and for the number to the ward that my dad was staying in at the hospital. But Big Peach refused to give her any of that information. She kept telling her he's fine, he'll be home by Monday. My little sister had to make a WhatsApp group with me and my middle sister just so all of us could try and get something out of her. Well, Big Peach couldn't keep it up in front of a crowd and eventually gave the name of the hospital and what ward he was in. And oh yeah, he's probably getting emergency surgery because he broke a bit more than just his shoulder. He went up on Saturday and we only got this information on Monday. So basically, if we weren't panicking before, we most definitely were now. We arranged for the 3 of us to go up on Tuesday to see him, all while Big Peach kept messaging us, trying to say how many of us can see him, trying to control when we're going, because she's going at this certain time so we can't go then. And again, all with the lies. She insisted she tried calling my little sister on Saturday night, but my sister has no missed calls from that time. She apparently tried coming to the house the same night to get some things, but I had the door bolted so she couldn't get in. And being the saint that she is, Big Peach didn't want to wake me up. It was bolted, it's something that I always do before bed when I'm home alone, except I was awake for most of the night with worry, and I never heard a car or anything from the door, and my bedroom is opposite the front door. Also, the dog goes bananas when she hears cars outside, you know, just like dogs do, and she was quiet all night, but Big Peach was totally there apparently. But then there was my grandparents. I called them to see how they were before we left on Tuesday, and guess what? No one had told them. Big Peach had gone in person that morning to tell them, all tears and needing them to comfort her. She told us on Saturday that Grandma and Grandpa knew and weren't going to bother coming up because he only broke his shoulder, so we shouldn't bother coming up either. And again, this is all just total lies. Anyways, I found this out on the phone with them on Tuesday, and naturally they're pissed off, and they're on their way up there at the same time as us, since they only just found out about it. My grandfather explained that he had actually called Big Peach on Saturday, just a casual call, asking how things were, what they're up to, etc. And she told him that they were at home watching TV. She told him that she didn't want to worry them, that they deserve to be told in person because isn't she so good like that? And she gave the impression that we already knew what was going on. They were angry that none of us thought to tell them, but I explained that Big Peach told us they did know, and that we only found out about the full story the night before after her insisting on us not coming up to visit him. So I said we'd meet them at the hospital and share everything we knew so far. We got to the hospital and see Dad is way more upbeat than we imagined. His head's cut up and he has a black eye, and he could barely move through the pain that he was in. No exaggeration, he looked dead when we walked in. I brought a bag of things for him from home, and my sisters brought food and drink, but all of it was useless to him in that state. He couldn't read books, he couldn't eat, he could barely drink on his own. It was seriously scary to see. And he's fallen off roofs and hurt himself before, but he's never been left like this. The responders and the friend he was helping thought that he was dead after the fall, or was going to die in the ambulance because he was unconscious for ages. When we finally got talking to him, he told us the story, and we realized how little he knew of what was going on. He just knew he was in the hospital and had to get surgery to fix him. He also didn't know that Big Peach had his phone, and that fact seemed to really alarm him actually. He didn't know his family was left in the dark until that morning. He wasn't even sure why Big Peach was handling everything. He has me as his emergency contact, not her, and that fact is what made us all even more on edge. When my grandparents arrived, they had time to cool down and just wanted to see my dad. Now, there was a rule for how many visitors could be by the bed, so I swapped with my grandmother since she was most anxious to talk to him. In the hallway, my grandfather begged me not to be angry with Big Peach. He says that while she had been very stupid this entire time, she does make my dad happy, and to please just let it go for his sake. He and my grandmother hold no love for her either, but they still try for the sake of peace. Now, I made no promises and even told him that I can't forgive her for this, but I would try to not start fights with her because there's enough going on already. It was a quiet visit all in all. Well, that visit was anyways, because anytime one of us tried to visit after that, no matter the time of day, Big Peach was there. And you know what? She was pissed at the fact that someone other than her was visiting him in the hospital. We got the impression that she was trying to be the loving, doting girlfriend, but didn't like the fact that there are other loved ones that were ready and willing to help out too. Like it somehow ruined her fantasy. She wanted to be the one to help him out and nobody else. My middle sister hypothesized some form of Munchausen syndrome. She's lied about studying to be a nurse for years, and a couple of years back, she did the same thing to her mother when she needed aid after she got her hip replaced. But that didn't last a week though. Big Peach got fed up with the fact that the poor woman needed food brought to her in bed, needed help getting to the toilet, you know, things that someone who's struggling to stand or walk would need help with. So she eventually sent her mother off to live with her sister because apparently she couldn't stand being treated like a servant. So I'm honestly not sure what she was expecting. For bells to ring and for her to get wings, for crowds to sing her praises, and for her to be declared a saint above saints. Now, I don't agree with the Munchausen syndrome idea, but I do agree that all this nonsense is all about attention. Now, I just want to say thank God for the nurses. They took great care of my dad for us, and I'm very grateful for them. I brought them boxes of cookies the last couple of times I was able to visit, and I don't know if it was appropriate, but they seemed very thankful. Now, the last I visited before my dad came home, Big Peach tried to cause drama with them too. I got there a bit before visiting time, but the nurses were happy to let me see my dad since I was alone, and I was there for I think half an hour before Big Peach showed up. I had braced myself to endure her for the full visit, but after 5 minutes, she announced that she needed the toilet and then walked off. She was back after maybe a minute, saying that she couldn't find it, and a few seconds later, a very tired nurse comes over and asks me to put on a mask or leave. And sure, I wasn't wearing one, but guess what? Neither was anybody else. Not the other visitors and not the nurses. Only Big Peach was wearing one. And of course, I apologized and I was happy to put the one on that I kept in my handbag, but even Dad commented on how weird it was that they only asked me after I had already been there for a while. Well, Big Peach said nothing and just stared at me. My dad didn't catch on, but it was obvious that she had excused herself to complain to the nurse about my bare face. And it's honestly like, okay, screw you, lady. While my dad was in the hospital, my sisters and I spent all week cleaning the house, as well as his room, and just getting ready for him to come home. I even replaced the broken toilet seat and fixed the damaged wall in the bathroom. My middle sister actually went all out and got new bed sheets and pillows and a duvet because the old ones were filthy beyond help. My middle sister also kept raging at the amount of pink hair she was cleaning up because, of course, Big Peach sheds worse than any animal we've ever owned. It is seriously disgusting. I pointed out that this is what I'm constantly dealing with, but no one ever believes me. The worst part of that is that she doesn't even live with us. This is just the result of her staying weekends. Dad actually came home way earlier than we expected. He's miles better than he was the week before, but still not well enough to be home. The friend who was with him when he fell was supposed to drive him since he has a Jeep with loads of space for him to be comfortable. And that would have happened except Big Peach got involved. If I had to guess, she probably had a childish temper tantrum. She stomped her foot and probably said, "No, I'm driving him. He's my boyfriend. I don't care what you say." And of course, I can only speculate, but that's what I imagine would probably have happened. Big Peach walked straight up to the door and went for the spare key, even though I know she saw me through the window. Well, I opened the door for her, thinking that she must be here for a change of clothing for my dad, but she storms in and says, "Oh, he's coming in the back," and then nothing else. Now, I didn't know what she was talking about, so I just let her fight the two back doors. And for reference, they are impossible to open unless you've lived with them. Eventually, she gets them unlocked and I prop them open after she storms back outside. She then got my half-dressed dad in and threw him in one of the chairs in the kitchen while I was putting the bin out since I was outside anyways. I was alarmed when I saw him and he was obviously in a lot of pain again, more than what we saw in the hospital. I didn't know he was coming home, but I was glad the house was ready for him, but clearly Big Peach was not. Fortunately, all Dad wanted was a decent cup of coffee after a week of hospital food, and I happily obliged as I sat with him. Meanwhile, Big Peach was stomping about the house, trying to find things that are wrong and getting more annoyed that nothing is. At this point, she's bringing bags into the house, and she's doing this through the front door for some reason, even though she's parked by the back. Now, for a bit of context, we have a rule where we basically say keep the doors closed or keep the dog closed in a room because we are next to a very busy road. Well, Big Peach has ignored this rule in the past and only stopped after I said I would hold her head under the wheel of a bus if something happened to my dog, all because she was too stupid and lazy. Well, she apparently forgot this rule while bringing stuff into the house, so I had to rush to close the dog in before she got out. Now, I thought that this was the stuff that Dad had in the hospital, and maybe like his medications or something like that, but there were so many bags. But then I realized she is literally moving herself in. All those shopping bags were filled with her stuff and little to nothing of Dad's. Dad has not even given her a key to the house, and he looked utterly miserable at the sight of her carrying all that stuff in. He definitely wants her to go home, and she's clearly doing whatever the heck she wants. Since Dad was settled in the kitchen and wanted to wait before trying to go to bed, he asked me to turn the kitchen TV on so that he could see it, and then to leave him with the remote because he didn't feel like talking. I then instructed Big Peach in a very serious way to leave Dad where he is and to call me when he was ready to go upstairs. I then retreated to my room and updated my sisters on the situation. Well, after about an hour, I heard them at the stairs, which are outside my bedroom door. I went out and lo and behold, Big Peach is trying to drag my dad and his crutches up the stairs. I didn't try to help right away since the staircase is narrow, and that could cause a more dangerous situation, but I did watch them closely, and I was there for starters to jump in if they needed help, and secondly, I trust Big Peach about as far as I can throw her off a cliff. And you know what? I'm glad I was watching. My dad was struggling up the stairs, all while Big Peach was grabbing the back of his shirt and pulling him backwards. Even I know this is not how you help someone up the stairs. My grandmother, so my mom's mom, lived with us for a wee bit before she passed away, and all of us learned that you hold their arm gently and you put your hand on their back and support them as best you can. Even though honestly, I think this should be obvious. The original plan my sisters and I had was to get my dad upstairs to bed and give him some more time to heal before trying to get him back downstairs. His room has an in-suite, and we plan to use the upstairs hallway to get his exercises and crutch practice done. The idea was to minimize stress and pain for Dad. I even got a little kettle for his room so he could have coffee without anyone having to go downstairs. Well, Big Peach didn't agree to any of this. She forced Dad to go up and down the stairs every day when she wanted and not when he was ready. The three of us tried to talk to them about it, but she insisted that it was good for him and that it's not nice to keep him upstairs. And you know what? My dad was too sore to disagree with her. And it's like, fine, I couldn't stop them, but I made sure that I watched them every single time. I felt sick and a little frightened. Maybe I've watched one too many scary documentaries, but I didn't want to leave them alone in the house. And honestly, this ended up probably saving my dad's life. On the third night, she was helping him upstairs, and he lost his balance and started to fall backwards because, as I said, she was pulling on the back of his shirt. I rushed up the stairs as soon as I saw him start to wobble, and I caught him just in time. Adrenaline must have been going through me because my dad is a lot bigger than me, and I still managed to get him back upright. Well, Big Peach was staring at us with wide eyes and slack jaw. I then elbowed her out of the way, and I safely got my dad back up the rest of the stairs and into bed, after which I did lecture her on how dangerous what she was doing really is, and what the correct, comfortable, and most importantly safe way to help someone up the stairs really is. I wasn't trying to be mean or nasty to her, but that was an extremely scary thing to see, and I never wanted that to happen again, which probably affected my tone. Now, to be fair to Big Peach, she was trying up to that point. I had only started a new job 2 weeks before, and I couldn't take time off to help. She vacuumed the floor, she did the dishes, and she made meals. But mostly, she sat and watched TV, but at least she did something. The meals she made were frozen meals that were hot on the outside, yet still cold on the inside. And while I'm not sure how she did that, I am still grateful and always made sure to thank her when she made dinner for me. Well, with all that being said, after the incident on the stairs, however, she stopped altogether, and instead, she just watched TV all day. I started helping Dad up and down the stairs because he did want to be in his favorite chair in the kitchen rather than in bed. I made dinner for everyone after work in the evenings. I made Dad coffee and lunch while cleaning the house on my days off, and my middle sister works basically across the road from the house, so she could check on him while I was at work during the day, with my younger sister coming on her days off and would do what she could. But what about Big Peach, you might be asking? Well, nothing. She watched TV all day and didn't speak a word to anyone. I came home from work once and Dad immediately begged me to take him upstairs to the toilet. He's been desperate to go number one for a couple of hours, but apparently Big Peach couldn't hear him over the TV in the living room, which by the way is next door to the kitchen. There were then 3 more days of this before she packed up her things and went home. And this is because apparently we were all so ungrateful to her, and the fact that she took time off to help us out, even though no one asked her to do anything. And seriously, apart from the stairs thing, she was actually being helpful in other ways like the cooking and cleaning. I never forbade her from doing anything when I talked to her about the stair thing, but she acted like I did in some kind of way. I didn't even say that she couldn't help Dad up the stairs, just that she had to do it the right way so that he wouldn't fall. I never said a thing when she didn't tell us about Dad going to the hospital, when she tried to keep us from visiting, when she told us so many lies to a lot of people, when she kept his phone so we wouldn't contact him, when she checked him out early so she could be the one to drive him home, when she moved herself in and took over the house. I mean, seriously, I never said a word to her because everyone, including my dad, had begged me and my sisters not to. And I did that to keep the peace and let her have her way because too much was going on already. But one talking about stair safety was out of line and just made her storm out? Like, are you kidding me right now? So my sisters and I took on more to make meals and get Dad to the toilet while also keeping the house in order, which by the way was the plan from the start. But with Big Peach's interference, we had to scramble to rearrange our schedules with work and back with our partners, all to what we had planned before, all on very short notice. So basically, it really was not fun. Big Peach also stayed away for about 2 weeks before going back to her routine of coming over for the weekends just so she can get some takeaway. She was icy to my dad and did not acknowledge me at all, which honestly suits me just fine, but Dad didn't like it. My grandma and grandfather visited when they could, but Grandma's health isn't great either, and they can't leave the house as often anymore. Dad's recovery was slow and painful. The painkillers did very little for him. He actually had to change doctors, get different medication, and try physiotherapy before anything really worked for him. All the while, Big Peach was giving him grief for how she was treated, and I seriously just cannot comprehend this woman at all. Even a year later, I keep thinking about what if he had passed away? How long would Big Peach have kept us in the dark? How much would she have tried to hijack and control then? It honestly really scares me. Now, I wrote most of this while most of it was still happening, but life got in the way. I never ended up posting anything online, but I've decided to post this now because guess what? It happened again last week. My dad had an accident in work which gave him a concussion. And again, some idiot from his work went to his phone and called his girlfriend instead of getting the information for his emergency contact that he has listed, which by the way, that person is me. He was unconscious for a few minutes, but they still sent him to the hospital after he came around. I honestly don't know what happened there because Big Peach at some point convinced him to message me saying that he was working late. And this is all in some effort so that I don't get worried apparently. But also this time there was not a word said to any of my sisters. Now Dad sometimes works late when they have a big project going on, so I honestly didn't even question it that night. The next morning, Dad and me got up at the same time and there was no Big Peach anywhere. I asked how work was the day before since he had got home after I went to bed, and that's when he told me that he was in the hospital with a concussion. This caught me completely off guard and I freaked out when he briefly tells me what happened. And then he decides to tell me that he's going on holiday with Big Peach after the weekend. I told him he can't fly with a concussion, but he insists that he's going because he's already booked it and Big Peach will be angry if he cancels it. I argued with him all week on it, but I did drop it after a scan of the hospital told him that he was all good. I had to not give him a choice on letting me take him to the hospital, Big Peach or no Big Peach. He has promised me that he'll keep me updated on what he's doing and that if he doesn't feel well, he says that it's okay because he'll have Big Peach with him to look after him. And I guess the concussion made him forget the last time Big Peach actually looked after him. So as of right now, yeah, they're away. I at least have a quiet house for the week, and I'm still paranoid about my idiot dad and his selfish, idiotic girlfriend. Her general awfulness and my dad's stubbornness about staying with her has broken this family more than it already has. My sisters barely talk to Dad anymore. Big Peach is not welcome at either of their homes. The rest of the family has completely cut contact with him, and my grandparents and I are exhausted with the constant drama with them. And undoubtedly, there is more drama and the worst drama to come, because one of my sisters just got engaged, and Big Peach is already trying to hijack the entire thing. But I'm honestly so sick of Big Peach, and I seriously do not want to deal with her any longer. Wow, this is a heck of a story, like seriously. First of all, Big Peach is a hilarious name, because the entire time I was reading through this, I was like, wow, that really gives a serious visual. But also, my God, why is your dad staying with this lady? She sounds like a nightmare, a living, walking nightmare who is tearing this family apart. It is seriously so disturbing the way she handled both of these hospital visits. The first one was clearly way worse than the second one, but seriously, both times she just completely left the family in the dark. And you're right, you literally hit the nail on the head. What if your dad passed away? What What if he died and nobody knew about it? Like, how long would that go on? Would she have a funeral and then tell you after the fact? I can't stand dealing with toxic partners of my family members who seriously feel it's their job to control the narrative of what is and isn't happening with someone's health. I know I've got a few of those in my family, and hopefully you don't, because seriously, it is a nightmare. It's like dealing with Big Peach all the time and you can never get rid of them. And that's especially true when you're related to them. Like, that's a whole different can of worms. But the way Big Peach acted, in my opinion, is like the ultimate form of entitlement that seriously is so weird. She's taking a tragedy and trying to latch herself onto it in some kind of way so that she's the one that can control the flow of information. And that is a massive red flag. Like, how does your dad not see that this lady is not a good person? She did nothing to help out in the hospital. She was actively antagonistic towards his daughters. And when your dad's finally home, she's doing nothing to help out. Like, literally nothing. Like, she basically tried to push him down the stairs every time she supposedly helped him up the stairs. Like, this is so weird. So truly, to the original poster, I am so sorry you have to deal with Big Peach. She sounds like a piece of garbage, and she really does sound like a narcissist. Not to mention the fact that she is super entitled and just begging for attention. And the fact that she tried to use your dad's medical emergencies as a way of gaining that attention, that in my opinion is so messed up, and you guys absolutely did not deserve that. Am I the jerk for not refunding my friend $600 after she bailed on our group trip literally 3 days before we were actually going on vacation? Because instead of being honest with us, she claimed that she couldn't go because her grandmother was in the hospital, but in reality, she went on vacation with her boyfriend instead, duping all of us in the process. So right now, I'm honestly incredibly offended, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female, and my friends and I all decided to go on a ski trip for 12 days over winter break. We found a place to stay, and all in all, it was around $600 per person for the rental, and we decided it was just easiest to have one person, namely me, put all the money up front and just everyone pay me back before the actual trip, which everybody did. In my friend group, we have a girl that we will call Sarah. Sarah comes from a comfortable family and was even one of the people who suggested the trip and was one of the leading forces to finding the Airbnb. And literally, in the weeks leading up to the trip, we were all fine, sending outfit ideas, restaurants to book, etc. But the Tuesday before we left, Sarah starts sending text messages to the group chat saying stuff like, "Guys, my boyfriend's family is going on vacation next week," and basically was sending a lot of details about where his family is going for winter vacation, and it was all stuff that we really didn't need to know. Then on Thursday, as we were leaving on Saturday, she sends a text to the group chat saying how she couldn't go because she had a family emergency, claiming that her grandmother had gotten admitted to the hospital. Now, we were obviously bummed out, but family comes first, and I told her that I would send her the money back that she sent towards the rental. So we go on the trip and everything's okay until one of my friends who has Sarah's location on Life 360, as they are roommates after all, sees that she's spending time in a beach town, and it's then that we put two and two together. Once we saw that, we spent the night pissed off, and we call her out the next day where she admits everything. She had been last minute invited on her boyfriend's vacation and decided that she wanted to go to that instead, but didn't know how to tell us. We were all obviously hurt and upset that she would choose a boy over us, but at the end of the day, she is just a 19-year-old girl, so I guess it's just immaturity or something like that. Now, the part I'm wondering if I'm the jerk or not is that after finding out that she voluntarily pulled out of the trip, I had told her that I wouldn't be refunding her the $600 that she had sent me for the rental. She pulled out so last minute that we couldn't find anything cheaper, and I said it was okay just wasting that money because, again, I thought she was having a family emergency. Well, after finding out that she wouldn't be getting that back, she went insane and started calling me a bad friend and all this other stuff. Now, my parents think I should send it back to her, but I don't see why I should. She pulled out because of her boyfriend and somehow expected us to just absorb the cost of it. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk here. Sarah is completely out of line. She really tried to come to you and be like, "Oh, I have a family emergency. My grandmother's in the hospital. I can't go on vacation with you guys anymore." Like, what are you talking about? You lied about your grandma being sick. What is wrong with you? You're a terrible person. And by the way, she literally backed out days before the trip. You mean to tell me after all the time and energy you guys put into finding an Airbnb, as well as each paying $600, like, are you kidding me right now? It's only after all of this that you're like, actually, I'm gonna lie to you and go on vacation with my boyfriend. Sorry. It's like, no, I'm not giving that money back. You're insane. Why should I have to spot the cost of you backing out and not planning your life properly? And it's so ironic to me that she's like, "Wow, you're not a good friend. You're a terrible person." And it's like, oh, well, it takes one to know one, lady. Like, look at the way you're acting. She's over here pretending her grandma's sick just to get out of vacation and then gets exposed and it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to tell you that I didn't want to go on vacation with my boyfriend. Oops, sorry about that. Give me my $600 back, back, please. It's like, no, if I was in your shoes, I would not give that money back for a second. That's the cost of doing business and for wasting my time. And on top of that, you know for a fact as the original poster, this is 100% coming out of your pocket. You're the one that paid for the Airbnb, so you're the one that's probably gonna have to give that money back in some kind of way. So yeah, your friend sucks, but trust me, this is not your problem. And at this point, I would even be hesitant calling her a friend in the first place, because the way she acted towards you is completely uncalled for, as you guys did not deserve this treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking for my house keys back from my mom after she literally just let herself into my house while I was sleeping? Because after dealing with this behavior for years, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this happened yesterday, where my mom just let herself into my house and walked into my bedroom at around 9 o'clock in the morning without any kinds of heads up that she's coming over, nor even asking if she could come over in the first place, or even knocking on the patio door that was open for my dog, and then just suddenly yelling in that she was there. Now, I'm a 36-year-old woman, and she just walked into my bedroom and proceeded to ask why I wasn't working from home yet, and after being told to leave, she pottered around in my kitchen cleaning stuff and attempted to fill up the second dog water bowl. Now, she has essentially OCD, and it drove me nuts when I was a child, but coming into my house and nitpicking everything is just unacceptable. I told her to leave multiple times, and after a good 5 minutes of that, I told her to get the F out as soon as possible. Well, she did not take kindly to that, but she also never takes kindly to me establishing boundaries. Her just walking in unannounced has happened around once every other month for the past couple of years, and my anxiety is off a cliff because of this and other personal stuff. I know she wants to help, but I am going insane over the intrusiveness. I'm having mental health problems, namely severe depression, anxiety, and chronic insomnia, which I've been working on all through 2024, and now I'm going to have a first appointment with a psychologist next week. I just want to know if I'm overreacting or underreacting, because this has been my whole life, overstepping, boundary-pushing parents. And don't even get me started on what happened in Mexico when I was 21, and she overstepped severely during my group holiday. She even tried to clean up my sink because it was not up to her standards, and I just honestly can't do it anymore. What should I do? Oh man, this is like unbelievable. You're seriously telling me your mom is coming into your house, kicking the door in and saying, "Why are you not up yet? What are you doing?" It's like, wait a second, what are you doing? You're in my bedroom and I'm half asleep. Why are you in my house? Like, this is a complete misuse of house keys. It's not even funny. So no, you're not the jerk for demanding those house keys back. If anyone who had access to my house acted like this, they would be banned forever. No question, no conversation, no nothing. There's no way I would ever put up with that, and I seriously don't blame you for putting your foot down. So in my opinion, I think you should just change your locks and go from there, or demand them back if you think she didn't make a copy of them. Because what she just did is like criminal. It really is not okay, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Would I be the jerk if I denied my neighbor's family access to my Wi-Fi after they literally knocked on my door at all hours of the night, demanding that I give them the password? Here's what happened. So me and my fiance live below an older guy in our apartment complex. For the sake of the story, we'll call him Doug, and he is super nice, kinda lonely, and has a really sweet little chihuahua. Now, we have a pretty good relationship with him. I've helped him set up his cable and his new phone, made plates for him on nights that we had a little left over from dinner, helped him get his groceries from his car, and then some. Just normal neighborly stuff. Well, a couple of weeks ago, his daughter, son-in-law, and their 4 kids moved into his 2-bedroom apartment with him because they lost their home. He told my fiance that they would be staying with him until they got their taxes, and then hopefully they could find a place. Now, that's a major break in the lease, but I've not said anything as I've been homeless before, and I understand how hard it is, especially with kids. All I've done is ask that he keeps his grandkids quiet past 9 o'clock p.m. as they've stomped and ran around and woke up me and my 2 kids multiple times, and so far he's managed to keep them quiet. Now, his son-in-law, who he isn't a fan of, came down to our apartment a couple of days ago while I was at work and asked my fiance if he could use our Wi-Fi sometimes so that his wife could continue to homeschool their kids. Now, she was caught off guard by the question, as we've never met the guy, we don't even know his name, and wasn't really expecting the question at 8 o'clock at night. She said she didn't know anything about the Wi-Fi, which was just kind of a way to run him off, stating that I handled all of it. He then asked when I would be home, and she told him 11 o'clock p.m., and he said, "Oh, that's way too late. I'll just come by tomorrow." And while my fiance advised him that he shouldn't, he did anyways. Last night at around 6:45, we had just sat down to eat dinner, and he comes knocking on our door. But I just ignore it, since I'm eating dinner and our 3-year-old has the flu, so so he was extremely fussy. A couple of minutes go by and he knocks again, but again I just ignore it as I'm eating dinner and I'm trying to get our 3-year-old to calm down and eat their food. I then wake up this morning to a note on the door asking if they could use our Wi-Fi since Doug doesn't have it and his kids really need to continue their curriculum, but I have a feeling they just want to mooch off of our Wi-Fi. Also, his wife is a stay-at-home mom and has had plenty of opportunity to ask me when seeing me outside in passing. So honestly, would I be the jerk if I denied them this access? Because at this point, I am honestly incredibly annoyed. No, you would not be the jerk. This is honestly so toxic. First of all, you don't owe this guy anything. If he's really worried about his kids having homeschool curriculum, then he would pony up the money and get the Wi-Fi himself. And the fact that he's going to you is like honestly so weird in my opinion. Because if he actually cared about his kids, I don't know, getting the education that they need, he wouldn't be going to you and basically guilt-tripping you into saying yes. And I'm willing to bet those kids are not even homeschooled. He just wants the Wi-Fi password so he can, like you said, mooch off your Wi-Fi and use it whenever he wants. So no, you would not be the jerk for denying this idiotic neighbor any access to your internet. This guy is so stupid for doing this because in my opinion, you are not obligated to help him in any way, shape, or form. Am I the jerk for calling my best friend fat after she kept asking to borrow my clothing and then ruining my clothing by stretching it out in a way that was completely irreparable? Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I have a close friend who we will call Claire who's also 25. We have been friends since first grade and we are very close. We often borrow things from each other, but things changed a few months ago. I treated myself to some expensive clothing after getting a bonus at work. I don't usually splurge, but I'd been balancing school and work and I felt like I deserved it. I let Claire know and she asked to come shopping with me. Now, I had no problem with this and after I paid for the clothing, we left. Claire tried on a few things but didn't buy anything, saying that they were all too expensive. I didn't offer to buy them for her since I'd already spent most of my bonus on my clothing and she already had a nice wardrobe. It's also important to mention that Claire is plus sized and I am thin. And this isn't meant to fat shame, but it is relevant because after I wore the clothes a few times, Claire started asking to borrow them. I hesitated at first, but I trusted her, so I just let her. Most of the clothing was oversized, so they fit her pretty well. She kept them a little longer sometimes, but everything seemed fine until she started taking them without asking. During sleepovers, I noticed that she would be leaving wearing my tops or leggings, and I'd find them in her possession next time that we hung out. I brought it up several times, but her excuse was that she didn't mean to take them and that she thought that they were hers. When I got the clothing back, they were either stretched out or had busted seams. Now, me being a timid person, I didn't want to upset her, so I said nothing. Eventually, though, I asked her to please ask before borrowing any of my clothing, but she would always insist that it was an accident or say that I had so many clothes so it just didn't matter. So I just dropped the conversation to avoid a fight, and for a while it seemed like she was listening, but then my favorite top went missing. She was wearing it when I saw her again, and it was completely stretched out and ruined. And sure, I was furious, but I didn't say anything. Then Claire asked to borrow one of my dresses for an event. This dress wasn't bought with bonus money, but I loved it, so I said no, and she seemed taken aback. She argued that the dress wasn't expensive and that it should be fine, but I still refused. She then got increasingly irritated, asking again and again, even calling me selfish. Finally, she suggested that if I had bought her a dress when we went shopping, she wouldn't need to borrow mine. And that right there was the tipping point. I told her that she was too big and was ruining all of my clothing, and maybe if she lost some weight, she could wear whatever she wanted from my closet without caring. Well, she left in tears, and now our friend group is split. Some understand my frustration, while others think I was wrong for saying what I said. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This is really obnoxious from Claire. The fact that she's taking clothing without asking, as well as stretching out said clothing while also implying that it getting ruined is your fault. Like, this is so stupid it's not even funny. Because seriously, what are we asking right now? Is she really implying that because you didn't buy her a dress, this is somehow your fault, so now she has to borrow yours? It's like, lady, you're too big to be wearing this clothing. I'm sorry if that offends you, but that's the truth. And you can even go back to the clothing that she's ruined and be like, look, you've busted the seams. And I totally understand where the original poster's coming from. You're not trying to fat shame or anything like that. This is literally just a situation where it's like, oh yeah, these are completely different sized people, and this bigger lady should absolutely stay away from this thin person's clothing. So no, you're not the jerk. This is so obnoxious, and I know if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for telling the rude postal worker that I dread coming to the post office all because of her? Because right now, I'm worried that I may have crossed the line, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I just recently decided to get my passport. First, I needed the photo, and then to apply for it, so I went to the post office. For a bit of backstory, backstory, I've been to this post office many times, and I'm often returning items at the post office. Now, there's this woman who works there at the post office who's maybe in her late 50s or early 60s, and she is kind of rude. Every time I've gone in, she has an attitude and acts as if the customers are inconveniencing her in some way. Like, she seriously seems so miserable. The very first time I ever went, I was 16 years old and I had no idea how to return an item, and she made me feel very stupid and embarrassed me in front of other customers, and it really hurt my feelings because I was being polite and asking for help. Even though she did that, and every time I go in, I smile and I tell her good morning and good afternoon. So anyways, I went in and I asked for just a passport photo because I didn't have the money yet to spend on the passport itself. I have a lot of money in my savings, but I wanted to wait until I had more in my checking account to buy it. She says to me, "Are you a first-time applicant?" To which I responded and said yes, and then she says, "Well, we can just take your photo once you do the application." Now, I was excited to take my picture this day because I'd done my makeup and spent a lot of time on it. So I said to her, "Well, I'd like to do my photo today if that's not an issue. I did do my makeup after all." Well, when I said that, she looks me up and down with a subtle look of disgust. She then says to me, "You don't want to just do it now when you come back?" And to that, I said no. She then sighed once again, and there were even people staring at me. She then calls another worker to the desk because she had to go take my picture, and I heard her say, "I don't understand these people." But once I heard that, I said to her, "You know what? It's okay. I'll go to Walgreens and take my photo there." She then comes back over and says, "I just said you can take it today." But I snapped back and said, "No, it seems like it's an inconvenience to you. Every time I come in here, you have a nasty attitude, and I don't look forward to having to come in here." I then ended up leaving before she could respond. So I took my photo at Walgreens and applied for an application at a post office in another city. And now I'm inclined to return my items at this other post office in another city, which is really going to be a pain. So seriously, am I the jerk with the way I handled this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, you did not cross any lines and you're definitely not the jerk here. That lady at the post office is a miserable human being and that literally has nothing to do with you. I think we've all met our fair share of people who just suck at life and they're pissed off about their situation or whatever, so they take it out on people who literally have done nothing wrong to them. These type of people seem to think they can say whatever they want and there's nothing that you can do about it, especially if they're bitter, older, and just a little bit jaded like the lady of this story. But in this situation, I think you did exactly what you should do. You stood up for yourself and you basically said, "Listen, I'm not going to be talked to this way." And I think you shouldn't stop there. I think you really should report her for the way she treated you and go above and beyond to make sure this lady knows that the way she acts is completely inappropriate. Because I know if I was in this situation, I absolutely would report her to whoever needs to hear it. Because this kind of behavior and attitude is not something that should be welcomed at any post office anywhere. And this is something that needs to be corrected much sooner than later. Am I the jerk for not letting my brother's girlfriend in the family photos that I was planning on taking? Because right now it's caused a lot of problems and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So every year for my birthday party, I always have a very specific dress code to make for cool photos. My family also, as a side note, usually uses a photo from this party as our Christmas card. For this year, I said I wanted my guests to wear black, my close friends and family to wear white, and then I was going to be wearing red. For a bit of context, I have 3 brothers, and I obviously invited all of these brothers and their wives and girlfriends to the party. Now, my eldest brother is married to his wife for almost 5 years, and they have 2 kids together. Although I'm not close to my sister-in-law because her and my brother live a few hours away, and even though I haven't spent much time with her, she's always been very nice and is obviously a part of the family, as she is married to my brother. Because of this, even though we're not close, she was obviously going to be wearing white. Now, my other brother is not married, but he's bringing his new girlfriend, who we will call Anna for the sake of the story. Her and I were roommates in college, and she is one of my closest friends. And I was beyond thrilled when her and my brother started dating because I was excited at the possibility of having her as a sister. My last brother has been dating a girl for about 3 years now. His girlfriend, who we will call Sarah for the sake of the story, wasn't expecting to wear white until she found out Anna was going to be wearing white as well. Sarah then confronted me and was basically enraged that Anna was wearing white, even though she had only been with my brother for a few months, while Sarah was dating my older brother for many years. I calmly explained to Sarah that I understand why she feels this way, but I also stated that Anna was not going to be in the family picture that would end up on our Christmas card, but was only wearing white as one of my closest friends. Well, Sarah was still mad and demanded to be wearing white even when I explained this to her. My brother then angrily called me and told me that he and Sarah wouldn't be attending unless Sarah was wearing white. And at that point, I laughed it off because I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And with that, I just ignored my brother's request because frankly, I was mad at this point. It's my party and I should be able to choose, right? Well, the day of the party, Sarah showed up wearing white and she demanded to be part of the family photos that will end up on the Christmas card. My parents are super traditional and they explained explained to her that she wouldn't be on the Christmas card until she is engaged to my brother. After this, Sarah threw a hissy fit at the party and then started crying after a conversation with me, making it out like I bullied her in some kind of way. Looking back, I feel like I overreacted over the white, and I should have just let her wear it because I honestly don't even care that much, but I do still think it was rude of her to show up in white anyways. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I think everybody sucks here because I think you kind of started this whole thing. Honestly, this is really weird and I just don't know why you set such a weird precedent because Sarah could have easily just worn white and all of this could have been fixed. Because you know what? Sarah's been a part of this family for 3 years in connection to dating your brother. Why wouldn't you just be like, oh yeah, wear white, this will be totally fine. Like it's just like a done deal, you can wipe your hands clean of it and that's it. And sure, the fact that she showed up in white anyways and acted that way was completely out of line. Like if I was Sarah, I would be like, oh, I'm being excluded for stupid reasons. Cool, I'm not showing up, this is not my problem anymore. So yeah, this is really a nasty situation, but I do think you're kind of more of the jerk here, even though I really think that everybody involved in this kind of sucks. An entitled Walmart Karen tries to force me out of a mobility scooter, claiming that I'm faking my disability, resulting in me not only reporting her to corporate, but also reporting her to the police. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm an 18-year-old female, but sometimes people think I'm either 15 or 16 years old due to me having a baby face and severe acne. I have POTS, along with permanent nerve damage in my legs. This leads to me using mobility scooters in stores like Walmart if I can find them. And at this point, I'm sure you can see exactly where this is going. Now, I go grocery shopping with my dad, and he helps me with things that I might not be able to get by myself, especially if I can't find a mobility cart. So we walk into Walmart, and I see 3 mobility carts lined up against the wall. My dad then tells me that he's going to the bathroom, so I get in a cart and I wait by the shelves nearest to the entrance. An employee then asks me if I'm waiting for anyone, and I tell her that I'm waiting for my dad. Now, I'm not sure if she saw us walk in or not, but it also didn't click for me that she may be questioning about why I'm on the cart. My dad then comes out of the bathroom and meets up with me, and off we go. But before I get very far, the Walmart employee yells at me, "Ma'am, that cart is for handicapped people only." And when she said this, I was taken aback. So I stutter and I say, "I know, I am handicapped." She then replies to me and says, "You walked in here, didn't you? You can walk around the store." Well, getting more irritated, I tell her that the details of my disability are none of her business, but I can assure her that I am. She then walks over to me, turns off the cart, and tries to yank me out of it. My dad steps in and gets in between her and I, and he says to her, "What do you think you're doing? My daughter said she's disabled. Are you really going to interrogate everyone who grabs this cart about their health?" She then gets red in the face and says she's too young to be disabled. She's just being lazy. At this point, I thought my dad was going to start throwing hands with this woman. Well, we obviously attracted a crowd because security walks over. My dad and I explain the situation, and to her credit, she says exactly what happened. The security guard asks if I have proof of disability, so I get up and I start walking with my legs buckling and my right leg being bowed in. Well, apparently that's good enough proof for him because he just walks off. She then says to me, "Well, why didn't you do that in the first place?" But I tell her because I don't need to prove anything to a random stranger with no authority. Now this Karen seems slightly embarrassed and mumbles something under her breath and then goes back to where she was standing. And while my dad and I ended up still going on with our shopping, once it was all said and done and we got home, I ended up calling the corporate number and reporting her. Now I didn't have a name, but I had the times and her description, and I'm not sure if anything will become of this or not. Also, I filed a police report and I contacted the store manager. The officer I talked to said that he'd see what he can do about this, and the store manager said that he would get to the bottom of it and that there will be consequences. And honestly, I'm hoping that there actually are. And while I'm not sure that the officer took my report seriously, there does seem to be some kind of action taken. Wow, I cannot imagine being so bored with your life, especially working at Walmart, where you feel the need to walk up to someone and be like, "You need to prove that you're disabled." Like, what universe are we in right now? That is so unbelievably unethical and probably illegal. Like, I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that violates some law somewhere in the United States. But also just from like a humanity standpoint, who in their right mind would be like, "Well, if you walked into the store, that must mean that you're not actually disabled and that you're just lazy." Like, if someone really has that viewpoint, and I mean like seriously, that's actually what they think, then they have no business working in a forward-facing customer service position. What a horrible and cruel thing to say to somebody, forcing them to prove that they're disabled. And the same goes for security. The fact that they had to be like, "Well, can you prove you're disabled?" Like, at that point, I would have been like, "No, but my lawyer can." Like, are you kidding me right now? This honestly is so inappropriate, and I am so sorry that that happened to you. And hopefully this Walmart Karen really does get fired, because what she did to you is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting for being angry with my husband over his mom crossing boundaries in our home? Because after I found out that she rearranged my entire house, I became incredibly pissed. And now I'm not sure if I messed up. Here's what happened. Okay, so I just got back from a long business trip, and 10 minutes after I walked in the door, I completely lost it. Here's the situation. While I was away, my husband's mom stayed at our house for a few days. She lives in another city, so this was a temporary visit. During my trip, my husband kept telling me how she was complaining about everything in the house. Now, we've been together for 2.5 years, and she actually helped me decorate the place before we met. And apparently, she kept criticizing the changes we've made to the decor since then. My husband told her it's none of her business and reminded her that she's a guest in our home. Also, this isn't the first time there's been an issue. During a previous visit, I woke up to find her cleaning and reorganizing, even though the house was already clean. Well, I immediately told her to stop and asked my husband to set clear boundaries. Fast forward to yesterday, and my husband went to the office. She was supposed to leave the house, lock up, and put the key in the mailbox. But when my husband got home, he found that she had reorganized everything. My closet, my makeup, his clothes, the pantry. She even switched the carpets in the room. To top it all off, she texted him a picture of the 2 new carpets that she planned to buy for us. When I got home, I started noticing all the changes, and I was furious. My husband was in a meeting, so I had a bit of time to process everything before confronting him, but when he was free, I told him that his mom is no longer welcome in our home unless I'm there as well. If I'm traveling and he wants to see her, then he can visit her instead. Now, I was upset that I made him call her and tell her that she crossed a major boundary, and he reminded her that she's just a guest and has no right to make changes to our home. But when that happened, she started crying and said that since she lost her husband last March, she's been feeling useless and just wants to help. So seriously, did I overreact? Am I the jerk for how I handled this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, anytime someone's trying to pull like the pity card, that for me is a huge red flag. And no, I'm not downplaying the fact that she lost her husband. Like, that really is horrible and I feel for her, but that doesn't excuse the fact that she rearranged your entire house. Like, if she wanted to clean up and be like, oh, let me spruce up the place before I leave, like, that would be normal. Even that is kind of a stretch for me, but that would be at least reasonable. But for her to turn around and change everything in the house to the way that she wanted it, like, that is crazy and there's no good excuse for that. So no, you're not the jerk here. She can cry and scream about this all she wants, but honestly, this was a big step over the line. So in my opinion, I think you had every right to put your foot down. Am I the jerk for getting mad at my wife after she forgot to pick up our son from basketball practice, all because she was distracted playing Dress to Impress on Roblox? Because right now, I'm still very pissed off and I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I have always tried to keep the housework pretty evenly split between us. I, for example, mow the lawn and do laundry and dishes, and she plans out the meals or cooks, or picks up the kids and drops them off as well. But lately, this has all changed because she's become addicted to a game called Dress to Impress on Roblox. If you're not familiar, it's a game where you have to dress your character in a themed outfit all before the time runs out, and the other players rate it from 1 to 5 stars. Now, this started off harmless, just a thing that she would do during her downtime before bed. But recently, she has missed crucial appointments and chores because of this game. I tried to be understanding and gently remind her to do things, but she would always say that she forgot or got distracted. Well, fast forward, and the big argument happened last night when she forgot to pick up our 9-year-old son from basketball practice, which ended at 6 o'clock. I had not gotten home yet as I had to work late, and our son doesn't have a phone, so I had no way of knowing the situation. I eventually got home at around 7 o'clock, and I realized he was not in his room. I looked around further, and I saw that he was nowhere to be found. I then walked into our bedroom confused, wanting to ask my wife where he was, and I found her on her iPad playing the game as always. When I asked her where our son was, her eyes grew wide, and I knew what happened without her having to say it. I then immediately got back into my car and I went to pick him up. And luckily, his coach had stayed after to make sure he was picked up safe, and I apologized profusely. Apparently, he had been calling and texting my wife, who was the emergency contact, and she just didn't even notice. When we got home, I immediately blew up at her. How could she be so addicted to a kid's game that she completely forgot our son? But now she's telling me it was a one-time thing and that I'm a jerk for getting angry, and I honestly don't know what to think. I do kind of understand her side of the story, as it has only happened one time, but she has to be a responsible parent. She can't just completely forget about our child who has no way to get home on his own. So am I in the wrong here, or am I justified for getting pissed off? Oh my gosh, what is happening right now? This is beyond irresponsible. This is literally just straight up neglect in my opinion. You mean to tell me that this lady seriously went out of her way to play this stupid game and didn't realize that it was well past her son's girlfriend's basketball practice, and then she tries to be like, wow, you're a jerk, this only happened one time. And it's like, wait a second, this should not have happened in the first place. Because I know if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would be pissed off as well. I would be losing my mind, I would be so mad at her. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because there is literally no good excuse for her behavior. My girlfriend is incredibly pissed off at me after I bought a vanity set that she didn't want, resulting in her freaking out on me and screaming at me for getting it wrong. And now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that I feel like this is kind of an overreaction, but maybe I'm just wrong. For starters, my girlfriend's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to get her something really nice. I've noticed throughout our whole relationship that she does her makeup on the floor in front of a mirror, and it always looks so uncomfortable. She has complained of it several times, so I decided it would be a great idea to get her a vanity set. I did some research and I found a couple that she would like, but I knew she was picky, and so I asked her if she was planning on buying a vanity set ever. She showed me the vanity set that she wanted, and I made sure to add that set to my Amazon list. A few months went by and I was ready to buy the set, but I come to find out that it was sold out. I desperately looked at other sites and the manufacturer, but the set would not come for over a month after her birthday. And also keep in mind that I decided to buy it a month before, so this was definitely not last minute. Well, I still felt bad, so I decided to spend some more time researching what set to buy. I finally came across one that matched the style and color of other furniture that she had purchased, and it was more expensive than the one that she wanted. So I bought it thinking that she would like it even if it was not the one that she asked for. Well, unfortunately, I was completely wrong. My girlfriend's birthday finally comes around, and she goes off to her sister's while I spend 2 hours building this set right after work. When she finally comes home and I show it to her, I could clearly tell something was wrong. She was quiet and didn't seem too happy. She then started bawling her eyes out, saying that she hates it because it wasn't the one she wanted. Well, I explained to her that I couldn't get the one that she wanted yet, but if she didn't like it that much, I could wait for it to come back and buy it and sell the one that I just bought her. Well, saying that only made her even more mad and upset. She then went on a rant about how she hates birthdays and that I shouldn't have gotten her anything. Again, this vanity set matches everything else that she likes, and it wasn't some cheap set. She told me to simply sell the set and keep the money because she does not want anything from me on her birthday. So seriously, am I in the wrong for getting the wrong set? Because right now I'm incredibly confused. Wow, this is definitely an overreaction. I cannot imagine getting a gift on your birthday and freaking out like this and being like, wow, you didn't get the right one. I wish you didn't get me anything. How dare you? It's like, what in the world is going on? How is that any kind of an appropriate response to getting a gift? She didn't even try to listen to your explanation. She just said, oh my god, this is so bad. Sell it. I don't even want it. Keep the money. This sucks. Like, is this really that big of a deal that she can't just try and enjoy it and be like, oh, my boyfriend did the best that he could and this is really nice? Because what's the alternative? Laying on the ground and doing your makeup in front of a mirror? Like, seriously, what's going on? This sucks so much. So no, you're not the jerk for getting the wrong set. You literally did the best that you could in preparation for her birthday. It wasn't last minute and you really did the best that you could. So the fact that she's yelling at you and getting on your case, even though it wasn't the right set, in my opinion, is a red flag and something that you do not deserve in the slightest. My toxic former business partner tries to sell off our business venture without my knowledge of it, literally going behind my back to make a deal, also that he could pay off one of his debts. So I decided to get some revenge in a way that this guy truly never expected. Here's what happened. Years ago, at the age of 26, I entered a partnership in a small CD and music store with a man in his 50s who already owned another store. The partnership was meant to share buying costs and advertising. Once we opened though, I discovered he was skimming inventory and we had leased a much larger space than necessary under the pretense of him subleasing the extra space for his office, which by the way never happened. After 3 exhausting years, during which he continued his dishonest practices, the store went totally broke. We had around $25,000 in equipment and another $20,000 in inventory. Although he ripped me off, to avoid a legal battle, I agreed that we'd sell off the remaining inventory and equipment, and we would split the profits. I needed to get away from him quickly, even though my share would be far less than what he took from me. Now, my star employee and manager, whom my partner had since taken to his other store, informed me that my partner was negotiating a sale of everything the next morning, just to settle a debt of his. Well, realizing my partner intended to keep me in the dark, I hired movers to empty the storage space that we had rented. I took back all my belongings early the next morning, and as we were leaving, I saw the other truck arriving. Later that day, my ex-manager confirmed that the truck was from the debt collector, and their crew arrived to find the garage empty. They eventually ended up in court, each of them accusing the other, and it ended with my ex-partner still on the hook for his debt. I then called him up acting like I wanted the update on when we would sell the inventory and the furnishings, but he simply said that it was stolen, and then I hung up as if I was upset. I sold off the remaining equipment over the next year, slowly recouping part of my losses. Now, if he had just been honest with me, at least during our liquidation, nearly $20,000 of that would have been his. But in total, he took much more than that from me, so no, I didn't feel I took a thing from him. Fast forward to 4 to 5 years later, and I spotted him in a restaurant parking lot as I was driving off. He smugly asked how I was doing, fully aware of his wrongdoings. I then replied that I was fantastic. Then with a huge grin on my face, I said to him, "So you still haven't figured out where that stuff went, huh?" His smug smile then turned to fury as I drove off, telling him to have a wonderful day. And honestly, it feels so good to get some petty revenge on a guy that absolutely deserved it. Wow, I can't stand people who are dishonest like this. And I'm not talking about the original poster here. I think they were well within their right to sell things off and get as much money out of this as they could. I'm talking about the partner who literally tried to sell all of this off in some kind of weird, shady attempt to pay off his debt, but also avoid paying the original poster. So yeah, good for you for getting back at this guy, because the way he treated you is absolutely unacceptable. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for speaking bluntly to my ex-girlfriend, who's come back into my life after 4 years to try and get back in a relationship with me after she dumped me in a way that honestly devastated me? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I shared some hard truths with my ex after she expressed a desire for us to get back together, and I seriously need some outside perspective on this entire situation. For starters, the both of us are 26 years old, and we started dating almost 2 years ago and have been broken up for about 4 years. We met while I was in a compulsory language year abroad in Korea. Studying abroad was good for me, and it expanded my worldview. I met people I still call friends, and it helped me come into myself. I can't deny my ex wasn't a big part of that. She helped me transition and made Korea feel like a second home. She was my first love. I shared a deep connection with her, and we were in the same friend group for both the locals and the exchange students. Our relationship had challenges, but she championed that we were in it together. Our biggest challenge was her dad. He'll only approve of her being with a Korean man and not a foreigner like me. Now, family is important to my ex, and I didn't want her to have to choose. She said she'd try her best to convince her family and make them understand, but either way, she wanted to be with me. Well, she broke up with me over FaceTime. Her reason was that she couldn't continue our relationship past family opposition, how important family was, and at the boyfriend stage, I wasn't family. And it was then that I realized I had nothing I could say. Her mind was made up. Shortly after, she began dating another guy in our friend group who was Korean, and it really stings with how soon she would get together with him and who the guy was. He was an insecurity in our relationship because he was constantly called my ex's perfect match by others, and she would reassure me no matter what. It really hurt seeing them together and hearing about him being with her family, and eventually our friend group fell apart after we broke up. The breakup was a bad period for me. I loved her and really thought that I found my person. I was looking into leaving everything behind and staying abroad for her. I lost her, some friends, my mental health went in a slump, and my grades slipped, but I worked through it to a better place. I completed the program on a good note, and I eventually returned home. And the last I heard, she had gotten engaged to the guy. She then texted me out of the blue. She had gotten my number from someone in our old friend group. We exchanged a few text messages, and it wasn't anything major, and we ended up calling the next day and caught up. Talking with her again was strange. We hadn't talked since I moved back home, and it turns out her aunt and I are in the same city now. Well, she's visiting her aunt soon, and she wants to meet up with me. She went into how she's not with that guy anymore, and they were only married for a year as she is divorced now. She's been reflecting and has regrets, including about what happened with us, and it was then that she asked if I would be open to giving us another chance. Now, this was a lot to take in. I told her she wasn't saying anything different than before. She said we were kids back then, but not now. Well, I said she was right. We're not kids, but I don't trust a word she says anymore. I don't trust her. She told me that I wasn't being fair, but I meant what I said. She never stated how things would even be different for us now either. I can't reopen that door and be with her like I once was, only for her to upend everything again. Some of our mutual friends are reaching out and speaking up for her. They're saying I'm not giving her a fair chance and that I was too harsh. But I spoke from an honest place considering our history, but right now I'm honestly second guessing myself because at this point I don't know what to do. Oh man, I would not doubt that first instinct that you have. The fact that any of these friends are like, you're being too harsh on her. Like I would turn around and be like, wait a second, I thought I wasn't family. She literally said you're just a boyfriend and you're not my family. And my family pressure is more important than staying with you. And it's like, oh okay, where'd that get you? It resulted in you getting divorced after a year and coming back to me after 4 years. And sure, that might be harsh, but guess what? I am absolutely on the original poster side here. I think their first instinct is correct, and I just would not be very willing to accept anybody like this back into my life. Especially with her going to the guy that everybody was like, oh yeah, you should go with him. You guys would be a perfect match. match. Like if I was the original poster and I saw that, I would be connecting so many dots it's not even funny. Because then I would honestly understand, oh, okay, you didn't actually want to be with me. You wanted to be with a guy that would make you look good in front of your family, not the foreigner that you thought you could love, but clearly you can't because your family doesn't like him. And what's to say that's even going to change if you do get back with her? Like this lady is basically inviting you to open up that sore wound and try to be like, hey, let's try this one more time. Let me break your heart again. So seriously, no, in my opinion, I think you absolutely have every right to walk away and keep moving forward in another direction. Because let's not forget, this lady dumped you over FaceTime. And in my opinion, you have no time for anyone who's going to act like that. Am I the jerk for not responding to my friend when our final project was due and she had not done her share of our project? Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a college friend who we will call Anna, who's in the same program as me. We've always gotten along because of our similar backgrounds, but Anna has never been very responsible with school. For example, during a second semester group project, she procrastinated and had to do her part last minute. And after that, I avoided doing assignments with her, but I stayed friends since it didn't affect our relationship. Well, fast forward to December 2024, and we had a final project together, and Anna actually got to pair with me while I missed class due to work. Now for context, I was juggling 9 courses and had 2 part-time jobs, while Anna wasn't working and had fewer courses. We didn't put in much effort outside of class, and we split the jobs up. I would handle the presentation, concept development, and social ads, while she added text and finalized our visuals. Well, the night before it was due, Anna refused to help with the social ads when I asked about it, and I wasn't mad, and I figured that she would just finish her part. I went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, only to wake up to messages from her at 3 in the morning saying her computer wasn't working and it was sending incomplete files. I had work at 8 o'clock in the morning and I couldn't fix them in time. At 10:40 in the morning, the time the class started, Anna texted me saying she had just woken up and wouldn't make it on time. And at this point, I got really mad. So I finished her part, which took me literally 5 minutes, and I ignored her phone calls and her text messages. She even contacted my boyfriend to find me. Anna then showed up just as I started presenting, and I quickly told her what to say. The presentation went well, but she left immediately after that. Afterwards, I apologized via text messaging for ignoring her, and everything seemed fine. We didn't talk again until Christmas when I sent her a holiday message, and she replied warmly, even saying that she missed me. Now, the new semester has started, and Anna isn't in the class we planned to take together. I've texted her a few times, including asking if she's mad, and she hasn't replied, even though she posts on social media and watches my stories. I know I was petty for not answering her that day, but everything seemed okay afterwards. So should I reach out again to apologize, or should I just let it go? Because right now this scenario is bothering me and I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, I do not think you should bring this up again. Anna is clearly a lazy group partner, and she did nothing but make excuses and put this off until the last second, basically forcing you to do all the work. And I honestly cannot stand people who act like that. Seriously, because then it makes your life miserable. You can't move forward with your project, and everything comes to a screeching halt if Anna even did what she needed to do. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for ignoring her and just doing her part, but also I would make sure that if you do have classes with her, you never partner with her ever again, because chances are Anna probably won't get through college, and in my opinion, this is not someone who's ever going to be helpful. My entitled boss hired 2 interns to replace me and demanded that I train them as I only had 2 months left to work there. So I decided to get some revenge by not only training these interns incorrectly, but also doing it in such a way where I could never get in trouble. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to work in media intelligence, which is a really niche market in the country that I'm from. I started as an assistant, and I learned everything from scratch as I switched from the hospitality industry, which is a pretty big step, I know. I was eager to learn and was really interested in what they do as I was trying to get into media back then. First of all, as I learned everything from scratch, I got really good at what I do after just 6 months working there. I was in a 3-person team, and I had one of the best bosses and a really good colleague, which were veterans in the industry, and the both of them helped me a lot to get me where I was at. They left the company after just a year there, as upper management was just plain hot garbage. The company had 4 changes in direction within a year, and it was stressing my team out. They did ask me to leave with them, but with me being young and naive trying to prove myself, I declined. Well, the story is that after my boss and colleague left, it was just me and my team, and I was in charge of a few markets. I was asked to be on call for technical support and was not offered anything in return. At the time, I was pissed off, but I was also trying to prove myself, so I just obliged. I got really stressed out from working 13 hours a day for a few months at that point, and I kept asking my manager to hire more people as I can't be working like this, and it's honestly just stressing me out. Well, my manager went on, saying that they don't have the budget for it, so I just forgot about it and kept drowning myself in my work. One day, the CEO of the company came, and we had dinner as he was growing close to me, since I was the only one person left who actually knew the ins and outs of the old and new system that the company used. Now, keep in mind, this CEO is a cheapskate and will try all and every way to suck you dry. He asked me what I wanted to change in the company during dinner, so I started off with asking for 2 new hires for my team, but he just gave me the same answer as my manager, so I asked him for promotion and a raise, which was also declined, with him saying that I don't have the necessary experience yet. And at this point, I was pissed off beyond recognition, but trust me, it only gets worse from here. Now, as a normal person would expect, after working 13-hour days for months, you would need some kind of rest. I had almost 3 weeks of PTO saved up, and I really needed that rest. Well, the manager threatened to fire me if I took any PTO, as no one was able to do what I did. But you know what? I took my PTO anyways. I got well rested and all was good until I came back. When I got there were 2 new faces and I was pretty confused. So I asked my manager, who are they? And she seriously told me these were my replacements. She told me that my notice was 2 months and I had to train them before I leave. Also, she couldn't do anything about this, as I was the only one in the company who knew how to run the legacy and the new systems, so she couldn't say that I was not training them properly, as she didn't know how things worked. So with all things considered, here's the part where my malicious compliance comes into play. Since the manager did not know how things work, she told me to train the interns on the legacy systems so that they would know how the company was built up. And you know what? I did just that. She told me to strictly train the interns on the legacy system and that she will be dealing with all of the rest. And I thought to myself, sure, I could do that no problem. Well, once the last week rolled around, things really started to hit the fan. My manager found out that I had been only giving training on the legacy system, and I didn't give them my notes with tips on how to run the system that needed to be used for daily operations. My manager called in the CEO and the managing director to hold a meeting with me, asking me why I hadn't trained my replacements properly, but I just told them that I did what my manager told me to do, to which my manager obviously denied it. That is, until I forwarded the CEO and the managing director the email specifically stating this that my manager had sent me. And after this, the call was promptly ended. After I left the company, I was patiently waiting for the call that was bound to come. Well, it was my manager. She demanded me to get back to work and said that the firing was just a prank, but I told them if they triple my wage, I will consider it. Well, they called me crazy and then ended that call as well. But now it's been 2 months since that call, and based on a good friend from another department, my manager is living in their own personal nightmare. Oh, I love it when managers get exactly what they deserve. First of all, the fact that you were doing the work of 3 people? That is so unacceptable and is complete BS. Because anytime work says, oh yeah, we don't have the budget for that, what they really mean is that they don't want to pay you what you're worth, and they would rather take advantage of you and have you keep overworking instead of, I don't know, paying you what you're worth. Managers or business owners who do that are some of the lowest forms of life you can possibly find. And what's the deal with you not being allowed to take personal time off? Like, did they really think they could fire you all because you're like, hey, I'm burned out and I need to rest? Like, that's not gonna make me want to come back. That's gonna make me be like, oh yeah, I'm definitely taking my PTO. But the icing on the cake is the fact that these people really thought that for some reason you would want to train your replacements correctly. Like, are you kidding me right now? What are they talking about? If that was me and there were no strings attached, I would probably quit right there on the spot. Like, that is honestly so unbelievably toxic. But the best part for me is the fact that the manager called back and said, oh, it was just a prank, sorry about that. It's like, no, it's not. It's only a prank because you're desperate and you have no other choice but to grovel back in front of me. So honestly, good for you for getting back at these people, because this entire scenario was absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend's parents say that I overreacted after their pit bull almost bit me in the face, saying that I made it up and that I was actually lying. But at this point, I'm honestly feeling like there's a rift in my relationship with my boyfriend, and I honestly now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female and I have a boyfriend who's 17, and let's just say that he is very family-oriented, which I do not have a problem with. However, I was raised in the deep south of Georgia, and my parents are very conservative and led the house with a heavy hand. They taught me independence so I wouldn't really need to see them as much when I'm older. Now, I don't judge my boyfriend, as I know that he was raised differently than I was. He can't recall the last time he got in trouble, never got his phone taken away, and was never spanked. He has a really foreign relationship with his family that I've never seen before, even in other people, and I guess they're just really close or something like that. Anyways, I've had problems with my boyfriend before, both emotionally and physically. He doesn't show much emotion when I'm upset, and one time he tried to get a little too close with me without me knowing or even giving consent, if you know what I mean. But he is a great dude. Now, my parents, on the other hand, have a bit of a harder time liking him since he is so different. I don't know if this is normal, but I pay for food for the both of us. And this is every single time we go out to eat. And I pay for his gas to come see me. For reference, I live about 45 minutes away from him. Anyways, we've been dating for about 8 months, and they have this pit bull who is about 3 or 4 years old, and he's been in a tiny metal fence enclosure for his entire life. He is unsocialized, never interacted with another person or animal except for my boyfriend and his family. I should mention, the last time this dog escaped his cage, it slaughtered their pet cat, and they just now decided that it would be a great idea to make him an inside dog. When I heard this, I was instantly worried. However, on Friday, I decided to sleep over. They had the dog locked up in the bathroom and then decided to let him out while I was chilling in my boyfriend's room. The pit bull instantly beelined to where I was on my boyfriend's bed in his room, and it jumped up on the bed. It then began sniffing me, and I was very afraid. And then out of nowhere, it started growling and lunging at my face and started snarling and barking. I then put my elbow over my face because I just knew that thing was gonna bite me. My boyfriend pulled the dog off of me, and he grabbed it so gently that he allowed it to escape his grasp and jump back on the bed. Thankfully, before it could reach me again, he then put the dog outside and just stared at me. I then began crying because this was a very traumatic moment, and he didn't even consider to comfort me. He then laid down and I put my head on his shoulder while crying. After this, I sat in silence, and he said, "Let me guess, you're never gonna come here again after this, are you?" And he said this in a very agitated tone. I then said I wanted to go home because I didn't feel safe, and that's when he got angry. I ended up calling my grandma because my dad would have lost his mind if I told him what happened. As I was leaving, his parents thought it would be a great idea to take the dog out on a leash as I was walking to my grandfather's car. I heard them laughing and giggling as the dog barked and lunged at me, and I was forced to run to the car because I was so scared. And of course, they didn't apologize to me. This turned into a big situation over a few days where I wanted an apology and they refused to give it. My boyfriend eventually told his dad how upset I was and asked him to apologize. Well, he messaged me on Facebook and basically said that I was being dramatic and that if his dog was actually aggressive, then he would be outside. He also basically implied that he thought I was lying about the dog almost biting me. And then I guess my boyfriend told them that my dad was mad, so they made him cut contact with my dad, which is insane because my dad has a right to be mad. And they used that as an opportunity to take a dig at me. They told my boyfriend that they always thought I was weird, and they didn't like how I never talked or ate his mom's food when we cooked. And then his mom called me a gold digger and said our relationship was one-sided. Mind you, my boyfriend has never paid for any of my meals, minus our first date, and I give him gas money for when he comes to see me. I literally pay for his food sometimes, so I don't know what she's on about. Anyways, after this, my boyfriend's dad told him that he didn't care what happens between us, because apparently he can't own up to being an irresponsible dog owner. And he said I blew everything out of proportion and that it really wasn't that deep. My boyfriend's mom has also never liked me or made any effort to speak to me. So I just feel like I need someone to tell me if I'm being a jerk or whatever, as there is so much other stuff that happened along with this, but it's all just way too much to explain, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I need to back up like 7 different paragraphs back. You're claiming that this guy's a good guy, and yet at the beginning you said he's made advances at you without your consent or like you allowing that to happen. Like, what are you talking about? That's not a good guy. That's someone that if I was in your shoes, I would dump immediately. And I hope you understand as the listener what I'm referring to when I'm saying, oh, this guy made advances at her, because what I'm describing is not a hug or some kind of like kiss, something a little bit more extreme, and I think you understand what I'm saying. So that alone is completely inappropriate. Like, this is not a good person, not to mention that his parents are basically idiots, because here's the thing, pit bulls can either be great dogs if they have great owners, but if they have awful owners like the original poster's boyfriend's parents, then guess what? That dog's gonna be a nightmare, a living, walking nightmare for anyone that isn't family. And that's the case for any dog. Like, you just look at any dog that's raised improperly, and you can see that, yeah, that dog is not safe. And that doesn't matter if it's a pit bull or a chihuahua. So not only are they pieces of garbage for walking that dog right as you're trying to leave and get out of there, but also the fact that they're trying to be like, oh, you're lying. That dog never did that. I don't believe you. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's like, what is going on right now? How am I the bad guy because you're a terrible pet owner? So no, you're not the jerk, but I think you're a complete fool if you keep dating this guy. He's clearly using you for free food and free gas money. Like, this guy provides nothing to this relationship, and I can't understand for a second why you're still with him. So seriously, hopefully you're able to get out sooner than later, because what you're describing, in my opinion, sounds like an absolute nightmare. An entitled jerk in the parking lot impatiently flashes his lights at me, demanding that I get out of the way so he can take my parking spot. But after he did that, I got super annoyed and decided that I wanted to get some petty revenge by making this guy wait forever just to even consider our spot. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened earlier today today, and it honestly was kind of weird. I was in one of the more crowded malls in my city where people go to, especially on a Sunday with family and everything. The mall is attached to a nice 5-star hotel, an apartment complex, a ballroom, etc., and I think you get the idea. Getting a parking spot is a nightmare, especially on Sundays, but more so than Saturdays. So I'm done with my weekly lunch and shopping round with parents, and then I get into my car. Now, I literally just got half of my body into the driver's seat before closing the door, and then this jerk came out of nowhere and came up from the corner and flashed his lights on me to signal that he wants my spot. Also, this is an underground parking lot, so him flashing made things brighter than it was outside. And when he did this, I was bloody annoyed and I mumbled to myself. My parents then asked me what that guy did to make me so annoyed, and I said to him, well, that guy flashed me with his lights because he wants my spot. But my mom said, oh, he's not getting our spot, he can wait. So here starts the waiting game, where this old jerk was about 5 meters away with his signal lights waiting for our spot while we're just chilling in the car waiting. The nail in the coffin was me exiting the car with me walking back towards the mall. This guy saw me and started turning his head for other spaces and went away within about 15 seconds. But when he did that, of course I walked back to the car and I got ready to move. Another car was immediately waiting for our spot, but the difference is that this guy was actually politely waiting. No flashing, no nothing. So we went away happily and shared a laugh together as we drove off, thus bringing to a close a family-sanctioned Sunday dose of petty revenge. Yeah, I would be super annoyed by that as well. You're literally just getting into your car and this guy's flashing his lights like, come on, I want to get in there next. And it would definitely come off as if he's being super, like, I don't know, impatient or something like that. So I can understand why you would want to make this guy wait, because if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be doing the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for leaving a party, all because my date refused to grab me a glass of water? Because suddenly this has become a massive issue, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I had been seeing someone that I met through mutual friends. We had had good times one-on-one, and when he invited me to events with his friends, I would contribute to the group dynamic by never showing up empty-handed and offering to grab drinks for others. Fast forward to a holiday-themed party with his friends, and my date and I planned to meet there and hang out afterwards. I spent the day cleaning my condo and preparing mulled wine to bring. During the party, people were getting drinks for one another, including me when I served the wine. At one point, I was sitting on the couch, blocked in by only my date on one side and many others on the other side. Now, I was tired and I didn't feel like tightly squeezing past people that I didn't know, so I asked my date if he could bring me a glass of water. He then shook his head and said, huh? And he said to me, no, I was just up, and you could have asked before I sat down again. Now, I was taken aback because I view small gestures like grabbing water as basic acts of care for friends, but especially for someone that you're dating. That moment combined with a long day of preparation left me feeling drained. Since the party was winding down and I didn't have the energy to engage further, I said my goodbyes and I called for a ride. My date offered to walk me out and said that he felt hurt that I was leaving. I explained that I needed to recharge, but that he was welcome to come over after the party. As we walked out, I jokingly mentioned how him not getting me water surprised me. He replied by saying, wow, that really upset you, huh? I have to be guarded about these things, you know. Later, we texted, but he seemed more upset about me leaving than interested in listening to why I felt drained. When I tried to call, he didn't answer. His texts were curt, and I eventually told him that I would like to decompress. 2 days later, I called to discuss what happened, and he said he'd call that evening, but didn't reach out until 3 days later, saying to me, I'm not dodging you, I've just been busy lately. And at that point, I was over, especially since he never acknowledged the misunderstanding or my attempts to resolve it. A month later, we finally had a conversation. He explained that getting me water felt subservient and was something I had to earn through time and being in the trenches with him. He also said that I didn't understand how busy his life was. For context, I work multiple jobs. So I calmly explained that grabbing water for someone isn't about being subservient, but it literally is just a small act of kindness. After reflecting, I feel his responses and handling of the situation were disrespectful, and it's indicative of a bigger issue. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? You are not the jerk, because this really is so weird. It took this guy a month to talk about this conversation. Like, this really is a small deal. It's a simple, hey, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, I'll do better next time. But instead, this guy dodged the question for like 4 weeks and then comes back and says, okay, I'm ready to talk about it now. And it's like, that's way too late, dude. What are you doing? This really is an easy conversation. Is he seriously this bad at confrontation that he has to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna wait and talk to you about this in 4 weeks? And by the way, nobody's that busy where they dodge you for multiple days just to have a simple conversation over a way that they kind of offended you. Because I think, in my opinion, the original poster's right. This really was a simple request. And it's not even the fact that he didn't do it. It's the fact that he reacted really strongly to this and dodged the issue altogether that makes me think that, yeah, this is kind of a red flag. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, because I think the person you're dating is really immature, and this honestly honestly could have been figured out incredibly quickly. My life turned into a living nightmare when every single parent who bought a tablet from our store ended up returning them all on the same day, resulting in the biggest refund we've ever had to give out. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm pretty sure I can't name specific brands or retailers, but suffice to say, this happened when I was working in the electronics section of a very famous toy store back when it was still a thing. It was not long after tablets were first introduced, and several companies had made tablets specifically for children, and they cost about $200 as opposed to the nearly $1,000 that the Pro tablets would cost, and they came with a bunch of popular games and educational apps built in, and of course parental controls. There was one particular tablet that was very popular that year. It was a big ticket item that Christmas, and we sold many of them. I would tell as many parents as I could that the device wasn't a simple turn on and play affair because it would require an initial setup, so the parents could set up the account and access and everything like that. Well, let's fast forward to the day after Christmas, which was the most popular day for returns, and almost every single one of these kids' tablets that we sold were returned. It seems there was a pretty catastrophic issue, starting with the fact that pretty much all the parents had ignored the warnings about the device's need for setup and only opened it for the first time on Christmas morning. Imagine the experience of your kid opening their brand new tablet that they've been begging for months and wanting to play with it right away, only for it to not work because all the parental setup needs to be done first. So here you are trying to do this with your overstimulated and impatient child screaming at you to make it work. Well, as bad as that sounds, it got worse, as all of these parents trying to log in and set the devices up at the same time crashed the server used for account setup. So the brand new tablets were essentially bricked. I can only imagine all the disappointed kids on Christmas Day. Now, this technology was relatively new, and being Christmas, I imagine tech support wasn't very helpful or even available. So pretty much all the people who couldn't get the things to work right just opted to instead return them. It was such a huge loss that I think the store company sued the other company that made the tablet. Now, the company did make one more tablet the next year, but by then the brand was poisoned and very few of them actually sold. The whole concept of children's tablets seemed to die out by the next Christmas season, and we just sold regular tablets in the following years because people definitely were not going to do that ever again. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been, especially as the parent trying to set up this device, and especially if your kids are bouncing off the walls. So yeah, if I was in that situation, I would absolutely get a refund as well, because getting sold a faulty or frustrating product like that is incredibly frustrating. Today, I messed up when I went in for a job interview, and I initially declined to go to lunch with them when they asked me to go, resulting in me not only missing out on the job, but also I apparently offended them by not wanting to eat lunch. And now at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So looking for a job had a recruiter hit me up about a good fit. My wife is pregnant and 2 weeks from her due date, so I'm not sure if it's a good time to switch, but I'm still always trying to keep my options open. I Zoom interviewed with a company once for 2 hours, and they liked me so much they flew me to their headquarters to meet their team. Essentially, I was as good as hired. Now, the flight in was rough, as the person in front was having their seat down, and my knees were grinded by metal while we bounced around in the air. After 4 hours, we landed, and I went right to the hotel room to sleep. I woke up the next morning, went into the office, and I started meeting with the team. The CEO says they had a schedule laid out with me to meet the entire team and asked if there was anything they could do to accommodate me. I saw on the schedule that it said go out for lunch, and my knees were still hurting from the flight. So I spoke up and I said, is there any way we could do a meet and eat here in the office? He said, well, I guess, and he had a confused look on his face and then excused himself and exited. The CFO followed suit and left while I remained behind with a revolving door of team members coming in to talk with me. Closer to lunch, the CEO stops back in and says to me, I really think you need to take the team out for lunch. It will be good for you to bond. So I instantly responded and said, okay, that works for me. Well, we went to lunch and I came back to keep doing some interviews. The CFO comes in at the end and says, we appreciate your time and thank you for coming in, but we are going to pass on you and look at other candidates. We already called you an Uber, which is right here. Please follow me. I then traveled back home after spending the rest of the day at that airport. I got a red eye back, I got home at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I went to bed. The recruiter calls at 10 o'clock in the morning and says I have feedback on the interview. Apparently, there was some issue about lunch and they felt offended. I then explained what happened and said to the recruiter that you were great to work with and to please call me if another position comes up. But now I'm honestly so confused and I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, yes, you definitely messed up because there is no way a rough flight is going to make me not go out for lunch. Like seriously, I get it. You were on the plane forever, but to walk in there and not at least try to go to lunch and fake it, like that for me is a big mistake. And I think you're right. You probably had the job right then and there, but because you didn't want to eat lunch with them, it probably like set them off. So yeah, I do think you definitely messed up and hopefully things go better in the future. My best friend betrayed betrayed my trust by hooking up with and sleeping with my ex-boyfriend while also trying to hide it from me. And even though she stood by my side and watched my life fall apart because of that man, she's now actively pursuing him, claiming that he's changed ever since he ruined my life. And now I'm honestly so shattered that I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying I feel like I'm in on some kind of sick joke. I don't even know how to process this because the two people I trusted the most completely betrayed me, and one of them is standing here acting like I should be happy for her. Let me explain. My ex and I broke up a year ago after I found out that he had been cheating on me for months. And not just with one girl, but he actually had an entire rotation. When I finally dumped him to the curb, I was shattered. But at least I had my best friend, who we will call Emily. She was furious at him, called him a narcissistic jerk, swore she'd never even look in his direction again, and she was the one who told me I deserve so much better. Well, fast forward to last week and Emily started acting off. She was distant and she was canceling plans. She was taking forever to text back, and when she did, she was really dry. I figured maybe she was stressed or dating someone new, but something in my gut told me that she was hiding something. But then a mutual friend casually mentioned how she saw her at a bar with my ex, and it was just the two of them together. And at that point, my stomach dropped. So I texted Emily immediately. I said to her, "Were you with my ex the other night?" It took her hours to reply, but then she hit me with, "Yeah, I ran into him. It was totally random. We just caught up for a second." And I'm thinking to myself, that is BS. At this point, I knew something was up, so I decided to do some digging. And that's when I found out the real story, and of course not from Emily, but from someone else. Apparently, she had been seeing him for weeks. It wasn't some random run-in. She had been sneaking around, sleeping with the same guy who destroyed me while pretending to be my best friend. I was shaking with rage when I confronted her, and I didn't even give her time to weasel her way out of it. I just looked her dead in the eye and I said, "How long have you been sleeping with my ex?" When I said this, her face went pale. At first, she tried to fake innocence and act like, "What are you talking about?" So I told her everything that I knew. She then opened and closed her mouth like a fish, and then finally let out a sigh and said, "I was going to tell you." And it's like, oh, you were going to tell me, were you? Like when? After the honeymoon phase? After you got engaged? Or hey, maybe when you needed a bridesmaid? Then she hit me with, "Well, I know this is going to sound crazy, but he really has changed." And when she said that, I almost started laughing. Changed? The guy who lied to my face every day for months? The same guy who swore he was faithful while texting other girls in my bed? That guy changed? I then asked her if she actually even cared about me, about how she held me while I cried over him, about how she ranted about how disgusting he was, and how she swore she would never forgive him either. But you know what she said to me? "Well, I do care about you, but people make mistakes." At that point, I couldn't even look at her and I decided to walk out. And now she's blowing up my phone, apologizing, saying that she never meant to hurt me, and that she didn't plan on this to happen, and that love is complicated. But you know what? No, lust is complicated. Betrayal is complicated. This is just disgusting. I don't think I can even look at her the same way again, but we've been friends since we were in preschool. This really hurts so much that I don't know how I can go on or if I can even forgive her. So seriously, how do I get the picture of them together out of my mind? Because right now I don't know what to do. Wow, this is unbelievable. Here's the thing, I don't think anyone could honestly expect their ex to never get with anybody else, but I think you can expect that the person who helped you get through that disaster wouldn't then go behind your back and start sleeping with the guy who ruined your life. Like seriously, that is so messed up, it's not even funny. That is so toxic and such a massive act of betrayal, I honestly would have a hard time ever trusting them again. And that really is the biggest thing you can take out of this. This lady is not loyal, she is not really your friend, and she is just happy to go behind your back, find this guy, and somehow get with him without you knowing about it. And this is all despite the fact that she knew exactly how he treated you. And this wasn't something that happened long ago. This literally was a year ago. So I don't know about you, but if my friend was like, "Yeah, this one girl ruined my life," I wouldn't then turn around a year later and be like, "Okay, let's start dating." It's like, no, I would not do that. I would avoid her like the plague. I would never come back. So yes, you have every right to be pissed off because this lady is absolutely not your friend, because the way she betrayed you is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My classmate's entitled mom demands that she gets a scholarship just like me and my other friends, claiming that she deserves it way more than we do, even though this entitled friend didn't put in any of the work that we did. And I'm honestly so annoyed that she got her way. Here's what happened. To start things out, I went to Catholic schools from 1st to 12th grade. When I was in middle school, there was this local charity and volunteer organization that would come twice a week and hold an after-school tutoring program in our school. Every week, 2 days a week, they had volunteers come and help students with homework, and I decided to join and went for the entirety of my middle school years. Every year, they would give select 8th graders high school scholarships. These scholarships were those who planned on attending a private high school and met the requirements. When I was in 8th grade, me and one of my friends, who we will call Melissa, were some of the students that they selected. I felt so lucky that I got the scholarship, as it took a huge weight off of my parents. I knew I wanted to continue my education at a private high school, and this was the only way I would be able to, since we couldn't afford all of it ourselves. However, there was this one girl in the program who didn't get the scholarship. Let's call her Serena. Her mom worked as a secretary at the front office of the elementary and middle school that I went to at the time, and they were both pretty upset, but especially Serena's mom. Serena has always hated my guts for some reason and was always jealous of me. She and I ended up going to the same high school together. Some of my other classmates from middle school also went there, and for a while I had the idea that her parents were paying for her education out of pocket, since she was one of the students that didn't get a scholarship from the organization. But then I found out that wasn't the case. During my freshman year of high school, all the students that were awarded scholarships were invited to have breakfast with their sponsors as well as volunteer for a little bit. The breakfast was on a school day, which meant that we would have to miss the morning half of our classes and get excused absences. A couple of days before the event, we were in class and Serena was reading an email on her laptop. The boy sitting next to her got curious and asked her what it was about. She then said, "Oh, it's a scholarship that I got." She said that loud and clear as if she wanted me to hear that. When I heard her say that, I was a bit surprised, but then decided to think nothing of it. I just ignored it and I brushed it off. When the day of the event came and I got to the building where it was being held, I saw Serena there. I was filled with so much confusion. Then we found out the truth from a couple of close friends and acquaintances. Serena's mom couldn't accept that her daughter didn't get the scholarship, and so she went into Karen mode and sent the organization an entire email angrily ranting about why her daughter deserved the scholarship. She even had the nerve to demean my friend Melissa, who I mentioned earlier, saying it wasn't fair that she got it because she was only in the program for 1 year while Serena had been in it longer. Serena's mom also had the audacity to tear me down in her email, essentially saying I didn't deserve the scholarship, all because of a vacation I had taken outside of the country for spring break that year. And this was something that my parents had saved up for a while so that we could be able to do it. We also found out that the principal was in on her little scheme and helped her out, and I was honestly appalled to learn about all of that. One of the volunteers from the organization, whom I had a close friendship with, told my mom that Serena's mom and the principal kept bombarding her and the sponsors with angry emails. As a result, they ended up giving Serena a scholarship, basically so they can be satisfied and get Serena's mom and the principal to leave them alone. It was a last resort decision. Now, when I found that out, I was so disappointed. The students who got the scholarship put their blood, sweat, and tears so that they could achieve it. Serena acted as if she earned it fair and square, which filled me with rage. But at the end of the day, at least I can say I didn't have my mom and my school principal beg for me to have it just so I could get it instead of earning it on my own merits. Yeah, people like that are super weird in my opinion, because if Serena wanted that scholarship, then she should have, like, I don't know, worked harder or done better. But based on what you described, it sounds like she didn't do any of that, and that honestly is her own fault and not yours. My idiotic new boss denies me the opportunity to take on more jobs so that I can help out my coworkers. But now, after those jobs haven't been completed, my boss is now looking for a scapegoat, claiming that these jobs should have been done, despite the fact that I said I would take care of it earlier in the year. So, deciding that enough was enough, I went ahead and called out her idiotic behavior, putting my boss on the spot and exposing her for the moron that she truly is. And I've honestly never felt better about putting anybody in their place in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background before I share the story, the names in this story have been changed just to protect myself from retaliation because my boss is that petty. Anyways, at the end of December, my old boss stepped down due to going to school, and our new boss took over. All of us were nervous as our old boss was not exactly the greatest, and the replacement was a stickler for the rules. I noticed an issue with some of how the tasks were assigned the first week of January. The new boss had assigned someone we will call Eric, a task that was impossible for them to complete due to how tall they are, as we are required to take photos of equipment gauges for the client, and said gauges were out of Eric's reach. Now, I called the new boss in regards to the issue and informed them that I would gladly make sure the task would get done so that the company would not get fined for incomplete jobs. Well, said boss told me not to do the task and that Eric should be able to handle it. So I said okay, I put the phone down, and I never thought of this issue ever again. Well, 3 days ago in the app we used to communicate as a team, our boss was furious. Several tasks had not been completed, and they needed reasons as to why. If you remember back in the start of January, I'd asked my boss if I could take the tasks of someone else's off of their hands just to make sure that they were done, and ironically, one of said weekly tasks was the one one I offered to do. The others were not done as everyone had been shuffling around due to the termination of a coworker, and not everyone had been trained on the tasks that they were asked to complete. Normally, I avoid even responding to posts or comments on said app, and I only have it to grab my work schedule and then log out of it for the rest of the week. I even have the app's notifications disabled. However, she was blaming the team for not getting the task done and looking to scapegoat people. So for the first time, I decided to just let go and call her hypocritical self out. I responded stating, "At the beginning of January, I offered to do said task for you, but you told me not to. I told you why I should do the task, and you still told me not to do it. And now, because it's not done, you are in a state of panic. So you know what? This is not my task, meaning that it's not my problem." Well, my boss is now maliciously ignoring my calls and avoids eye contact with me completely. Everyone, including the client, knows that I offered to complete said task, and she literally has nothing to say to defend herself. So perhaps next time she will listen to what I have to say, because it might just save her and everybody else a massive headache. Yes, I love this story so much. The original poster decided that enough was enough, and that this is something you just simply cannot ignore any longer. So them deciding to stand up for themselves and put this idiot in their place, in my opinion, is brilliant, because I have dealt with managers like this, and let me tell you something. If you've never been in this scenario, it really sucks. They say one thing and then they turn around and try and act like it's your fault, all because you listen to their faulty advice. And that is so obnoxious. Honestly, it is so bad. So seriously, I love the fact that you did this, because this boss sounds like a complete idiot, and they definitely deserve to be shut down. My husband keeps using what my brother did against me, and after hearing this over and over again, I'm honestly at my breaking point, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my brother-in-law started dating my sister-in-law's best friend about 9 months ago. She's basically family to my in-laws, and that's because she's been around them since she was a kid. She's sweet and just one of those people who gets along with everybody. Over the past 2 years, we became friends, and I really love her. A little over 2 months ago, she and my brother got into a huge fight that got physical, and I was horrified when I found out. My husband was sure I'd side with my brother, but I simply couldn't do it. As much as I love him, I couldn't condone what he did. I told her I was sorry, that what he did was wrong, and I would support whatever decision she made. She told us my brother beat her because he thought that she was cheating. A few days later, my brother and I met up, and he told me that she started it by saying some hurtful things and slapping him twice. He said he lost control and slapped her back, and things escalated from there. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what actually happened. I've never brought it up with her because I'm scared that she'll think I'm doubting her or trying to defend my brother. My husband told me that her family encouraged her to press charges, but she refused to do so. Now, I haven't seen her since, but we still talk on the phone sometimes. But the main issue is my husband. He keeps using what my brother did against me. It doesn't matter what we're arguing about, he always brings it back to my brother. If I stay quiet or try to change the subject, he accuses me of defending him. And I swear I don't mean to defend him, but it's exhausting to argue about it every single day. Now, it's important to note that my in-laws and I have never been close. I'm from a different country, and no matter how hard I try, I feel like I'm never good enough for them. They criticize everything. How I cook food, how I still have an accent after all these years. There's always something. Now, I've learned to live with it, but this situation has made it so much worse. I'm almost 2 months pregnant, and I don't want to raise a child in this environment, but asking for a divorce over this feels wrong. At the same time, I can't keep living like this. I feel like I'm being torn apart, and I don't know how to fix it. I know it might sound like I'm exaggerating, but we do argue every single day, and it's honestly so draining. I can't even focus at work anymore because I'm always thinking about what he'll say when I get home. It's like I'm always bracing for the next fight, and I feel like he's using this situation to punish me for not being the perfect wife or fitting into his family's expectations. What should I do? Oh man, this is so weird because you are literally not responsible for your brother's actions. Like, the way your husband's treating you is so mean. Like, seriously, I understand that he's pissed off at him, but this is not your fault. So seriously, the fact that he's treating you like this is honestly so toxic, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for taking in someone else's DoorDash order that was mistakenly delivered to my house? Because once they came to pick it up, they were incredibly pissed off at me, and right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I saw on my camera that someone's DoorDash was mistakenly delivered to my house. Now, I assumed that they would come and get it, since this happens frequently in my area, and it's normally delivered to the house number on the opposite complex. So I waited and I didn't bother to bring it in, even though the weather was bad. Well, about 30 minutes later, I get a bunch of motion notifications on my camera. The bag of food is blowing around on my porch, and I see their drink is about to topple out of the cup holder. It was snowing and windy, so I immediately ran downstairs to get it off my porch before their drinks made a mess all over my grandmother's porch. I placed the food on the desk and I contacted DoorDash support, explaining this situation, and they told me to just dispose of it. About 10 minutes later, the man arrived. I was upstairs in bed, so it took me a while to get dressed. I have an ill grandmother, and I didn't want to wake her up. But before I could even make it down there, this guy started banging on the door as loud as he possibly could repeatedly. He accused us of drinking from the drink after all of that because the lid was half off of it, and the cup holder had gotten wet from the drink toppling over, even though I explained that we just brought it in to keep it from spilling. After he left, he came back and started taking pictures of our house with the food. So seriously, am I the jerk for taking it in and causing this drama? Or should I have just let it make a mess? It was either going to blow away or just be spilled all over the place, so I took it in. When I checked the label, it said it was only bread in the bag that was blowing away. And also, just to add, I don't normally bring the food in when it's delivered to the wrong house. I just let it sit until they come for it. But because the weather was bad and it was blowing away, and it had been so long, I just brought it in to try and be nice. What should I do? You did not do anything wrong. This guy is a weirdo. He is clearly putting his order in wrong, or putting down the wrong address, and he's too stupid to figure it out. Like, it's not your fault that the DoorDash keeps going to your house. That is literally all on his shoulders. And the fact that he's trying to be like, wow, you drank from my drink, I can't believe it. It's like, no dude, it's not my fault. I brought it in to try and be nice. I easily could have just thrown it away, but I decided to bring it in. And it's like, you easily could have just thrown it away and been like, yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. So no, you're not the jerk at all because this guy was being so weird. And the fact that he was so aggressive about this, in my opinion, shows how guilty this guy truly is. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not loaning my sister $5,000 after her and her husband basically said they need that to get by? But I'm concerned they're not going to use it for the things that they actually need it for. And now I'm worried that I might be in the wrong for not giving them that money because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm a 38-year-old male. My sister, who we will call Ruth for the sake of the story, is a teacher, and my brother-in-law, who we will call Bill, was a police officer. They have 3 kids, 2 are now in college, and 1 just turned 15 years old. In 2019, Ruth was diagnosed with colon cancer. She's in remission but keeps getting spots forming on her liver, and thankfully, she just finished another round of successful treatment. Fast forward, and in 2020, the vaccine was released, and both my sister and Bill were some of the first people able to take the vaccine. And that's because both the district and police department required vaccines so that they could go back to work. And so my sister got it, and Bill refused it first, and the department kept giving extensions for officers to get vaccinated, so Bill waited till the last minute to get the vaccine. And while he still missed the deadline by a day, he still ended up getting it. Now, everyone is free to believe whatever they want. It is a free country. Now, Bill has a GED, he has 0 to fall back on, constantly brags about only having a GED, and making over $100,000 as a cop. In 2020, he had 1 daughter graduating high school, moving on to university, a second daughter going into high school, who today is in community college, and a third in middle school. And mind you, Ruth had cancer throughout all of this. He didn't really give any thought to all of that or any possible repercussions by losing his career. Well, the department fires Bill. Bill files a lawsuit which is ongoing today, and a similar class action lawsuit was thrown out by a judge last year. From 2021 to about 2023, Bill collected unemployment, did not get a steady job, was practically on vacation for 3 years, borrowing money from my family, never asked for money until about 2 weeks ago, and we had no idea if Bill asked on his side of the family for loans, since we were under the assumption that he didn't, as he carries himself in high regard with his side. Ruth and Bill's family have been able to live a lifestyle where they have never needed anything. They've always spent money like crazy, and it didn't stop after Bill gave up his career due to a vaccine, continued borrowing money from my family, and kept going out, spending money and going on vacations, eating fast food. I mean, it was wild. They never once stopped living as if everything was still okay. And now when it's all said and done, they are about $40,000 in debt to my family. Bill got lucky through a loophole, and sheer dumb luck as he reapplied and was accepted into background investigations to be reinstated as a cop. Anyways, Ruth sent me and my younger sister a text message asking each of us for $5,000. She needed this so that her husband wouldn't have to dig into his 401k with penalties, refinance their home with high interest rates, and so Bill wouldn't damage his credit. But here's where things kind of get messy. I replied by saying, I don't have it, but you shouldn't be worrying about that. Focus on resting and just feeling better. My assumption is they need the money to pay off the mortgage, so that way the background investigators don't find any financial issues, which goes against the department's values while being hired. Now, Bill, ever since he entered our family, has been an absolute jerk. He dislikes some of the jokes we make, which can be kind of off color, which are really hard to explain. And sure, there are plenty of examples I could give, but they're mostly inside jokes and jabs with family that definitely have an edge to it that someone might not be used to. Now, my parents retired in September of 2024, so they don't have the money to be be loaning anymore. I had several conversations with my parents, my younger sister, as well as my nephew about how Bill is still disrespectful, he's unappreciative, and he's still a complete jerk. And this is all after borrowing so much money. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and I said, maybe Bill just doesn't know about all the money being borrowed, since Ruth was the one that would ask about it. Well, that is until the weekend they asked me for $5,000, and Bill also called my dad to ask for $5,000 too. Now, I had a talk with my parents about Ruth asking me for money, so they expected it. My dad told Bill, look, I don't have it. I'll have to dig into my own 401k for it, and Bill just said, no, that's okay, and that was honestly such a good thing. Had my sister said, we don't have money for food, and my hospital bills are about to go into collections, I would have gifted her the $5,000 without question, but I don't have money to loan to somebody who has been completely irresponsible by giving up his career over a vaccine. So I refuse to give them any amount of money due to Bill being a complete jerk since entering our lives. Anyways, am I the jerk in this situation for not wanting to hand over $5,000? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This situation kind of screams, oh yeah, they're taking advantage of everybody. Like they really need to sort their stuff out and stop asking everybody and their mother for loans. Because that in my opinion just doesn't seem fair, especially when it sounds like they're not paying anybody back. My entitled friend refuses to pay me back for any of the stuff that her dog ruined at my house. Because after she left her dog unattended for nearly 10 days, locked up in our guest bedroom, that dog literally went to the bathroom everywhere, forcing me to replace my couch, my mattress, and even my carpets. But despite the mounting cost of everything I have to replace, my friend refuses to take responsibility for the utter damage that she caused. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my childhood best friend and I live in different countries, and we have a small tradition where she travels to spend Christmas with me every year. I help with money for plane tickets and she stays at my house where I also provide food. Last Christmas she came, but this time she brought her dog, as she got a puppy in January of 2024. I then asked her if it was already trained and she told me that it was. I also let her know that I don't like pets on my beds or couch and asked if I needed to buy something for her dog to sleep in. Well, she told me the dog will be okay with a pillow beside her bed. I also bought some cleaning supplies and I left it in the guest bedroom that she could use if she needed it. Unfortunately, when she arrived, I noticed that the dog was absolutely untrained. Now, I was trying not to be a jerk about it, and I was just trying to enjoy our time together, but I told her that she needed to take her dog out often because she wasn't doing it. Like, for example, the day she arrived, she said she was too tired and the dog didn't need it. Then on the second day, it was too cold to walk outside. And on the third day, we have plans. So she left the dog locked in the room all day. She was here for 10 days, and the dog was taken outside for walks maybe 5 times. And one of those times was by me, and the other was by my husband. The dog slept on the bed, the couch, and left hairs everywhere, jumping on people all the time, and it was biting. But I started to notice a strong smell coming from the guest bedroom. Well, to make a long story short, the carpet, a couch, and bed mattresses are absolutely ruined by the smell of urine, and it is disgusting. I tried different cleaning methods, but it smells really bad. I then talked to my husband, and we decided that we needed to replace everything. I was then texting my friend, and I let her know that I would need to replace everything because of the strong smell. Well, she stopped replying the moment I told her, and for 2 days she was radio silent, which is weird because we are always texting memes or random stuff all the time. And to be honest, I was waiting for her to apologize for the trouble, but I got nothing from her. Now, this is when I may be the jerk, but I got really mad at her for deciding to ghost me instead of using her big girl words. I texted her a picture of the shopping cart of everything that we needed to replace, and I even told her the total of the stuff her dog ruined and that we needed to buy. And then I asked her how much she thought she could help us out with in terms of like paying back for what she destroyed. Well, she read my message, it went silent for 4 hours, and then she replied saying that I was tacky for asking money from someone that, according to her, was just a guest in my house. It was back and forth with her telling me that she didn't think the smell was that bad because she cleaned everything just like she cleaned her own house, that the dog in her house behaves perfectly fine, so maybe it was just my house. But I told her it smelled really bad. She then asked me, well, if someone goes to your house and a child breaks something, would you be calling them back asking for money? And I responded back by saying, well, I would at least expect an apology. She then says to me, so this is what it's about. You want me to beg for forgiveness for something a dog cannot control? But I just simply told her, well, maybe you should try to not be a horrible dog owner. So seriously, am I the jerk in the way that I handled this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, this is not your fault at all. You are completely justified for being pissed off about this. This lady literally left that dog in a locked room for 10 10 days and only walked that dog, what, 5 times? It's like, are you kidding me right now? That dog needs to be let out probably like 3 times or more a day. Like, did she really think that dog was gonna be okay as a puppy, locked up in a room with nowhere to go and nowhere to use the bathroom? Like, seriously, this is so messed up. And you know for a fact that she is absolutely guilty of like not doing anything to take care of this. She probably walked out of your house and knew immediately like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. And from the sounds of it, she's willing to ruin your friendship instead of fixing this and being like, oh, I'm sorry, I messed up. Here, let me send you some money. Because yes, she is the jerk in this situation. And the fact that she's not trying to like fix this in any kind of way, in my opinion, shows exactly the kind of person that she is. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for leaving my aunt's house after failing to convince her that she is being scammed? Because right now, my mom's upset with me and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male, and my mom asked me to talk to my aunt about something. She said that my aunt is being scammed, but it's not a romance scam though. Instead, she's convinced she's talking to her favorite author who needs someone to pay her bills for her while she works on a new book. Mom said that since my aunt has no children of her own, and I'm the closest thing that she has to a son, she might listen to me. Well, I dropped by. I asked how she's doing, and then I told her that my mom told me about what's going on. My aunt muttered something about her meddling older sisters before telling me that she appreciates my concern, but there is nothing to worry about. I told her that her favorite author sold more than 20 million copies in the United States alone and had her works translated into more than 40 languages, meaning that she doesn't need anyone paying her bills for her. And even though I said that, my aunt still wouldn't listen. But I did not immediately give up. I told her I care about her and I don't want to see her scammed, but she insisted that it's not a scam. She just made a bunch of posts on social media about the books, and the author DM'd her asking for money. But I told her that's exactly how these celebrity catfishes operate, and I even showed her examples of it on YouTube, but she refused to watch any of the videos. After half an hour, I said, okay, I'm going home now, see you later. And when my mom asked me why I came home so early, I told her that I love my aunt, but I don't know how I can convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced. She said I shouldn't have given up so easily on someone that I love. Well, fast forward, and I called my aunt and I repeated the point about the number of books the author sold, and she said the author told her that she made bad investments. I then told my aunt that even if that were the case, the authors get advance fees, so they won't starve while writing their books. Considering her favorite author has appeared on the New York Times bestseller list several times, she can probably expect a sizable advance. Then I told my aunt that if she still doesn't believe me since she sees me as a kid, we can go to the bank and talk to the people there, or even the cops. I also told her that I can contact the author. I've looked up her official website and Facebook, so I can message her in order to ask for direct confirmation. Well, my aunt told me not to do anything yet and that she will think about it. I will talk to her later and just give her time to think about it for now. But seriously, am I the jerk in this situation for not staying longer the first time? Because right now, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. No, you're not the jerk here. Your mom is completely wrong. If I had a family member who was not listening to anything I say after half an hour, and they're denying evidence or any kind of like, I don't know, proof that this is a scam, at that point I would be like, okay, whatever, I'm giving up and I'm leaving. And I just can't stand when people are that stubborn, because it's like, think about this for a second. We're talking about a famous author. They've probably made millions of dollars off of all those books. So there's no way in the world they're ever going to you and being like, oh, I need some money, help me pay my bills. Like, no person in media is ever going to go to their fans like that unless they are actually scamming you. And I know we're all thinking of many examples in media and just pop culture who have done that, and it really is unfortunate. So no, you're not the jerk, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My dad is constantly getting me sick because he does nothing to prevent spreading his germs. And at this point, I'm honestly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My father is the kind of person who does not care whether he passes on his bugs to you or not. And mind you, I have a great relationship with him and I love him despite what he does. To provide context, ever since I was a kid, I have suffered from chronic issues with my sinuses. I've had surgery for that, but it just doesn't seem to have worked. Anytime I get a cold, I feel miserable for almost 2 weeks. I become a mucus production machine, and that mucus gets infected, and I end up getting a pretty bad sinus infection that only clears after a course of 10 days of antibiotics and steroids. Every time that goes by, my infections are getting worse in severity and length, and I get approximately 5 to 6 episodes like that every single year. Now here's the real issue. At least half of these episodes are a consequence of my father getting sick and spreading his cold to me. My father gets sick often because he does not seem to care that he gets colds, because his are usually not very bad, and he makes no effort to avoid getting sick. Well, one time when he was sick, instead of telling my my mom that he was sick, my father denies getting sick and refuses to go to the doctor. He will not take cold medicine or put on a mask, etc., and he just acts completely normal being around anyone, hence why he's spreading his virus. And then when I get sick, which is very bad due to my nose issues, he does not acknowledge that he passed the virus onto me and claims that I must have gotten the virus from somebody else. I have tried to explain my situation, ask him to please try not to get sick in the first place, and if he is sick, please tell me so that I can protect myself. But even then, he still just does not care. Well, I'm writing this as I have another one of those sinus episodes that honestly is not going away despite medicine, and this has prevented me from sleeping for 3 nights in a row. Now, at this point, what options do I have beyond moving out? What do you think of my father's attitude? Am I making this too much of a big deal, or am I in the wrong for acting the way that I am? What should I do? Oh man, this is so frustrating. There's nothing more annoying than someone who's blatantly sick, being incredibly lazy, and then getting everybody else sick. And it's like, wait a second, I know for a fact I didn't get this from anybody else. And sure, you could get sick from anybody, but seriously, if I'm willing to bet, it probably was the guy who was sick and sniffling all day in your house. So yeah, unfortunately, it sounds like moving out might be your only option, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would be talking to my dad and be like, listen, I love you, but I just can't keep doing this. You getting sick affects me negatively because then I get sick and it is so much worse. And you would think that he would know this after you've had surgery about this, because in my opinion, his attitude is so dismissive and it's honestly just so unfair that you have to deal with this in the first place. Am I the jerk for leaving my sister-in-law's house on Christmas, all because there was someone there that me and my husband definitely did not want to see? And despite the fact that we tried to do this in a subtle manner, my sister-in-law's husband cussed me and my husband out as we were leaving. And now I am blown away and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I would really like to get some insight from everybody on what happened at our family Christmas. On the 23rd, my sister-in-law had messaged me and told me that they were throwing a small Christmas party, and she told me that her sister-in-law and her in-laws and her parents are all going to be joining them, and they would really like for us to come along as well. Very specifically, she named everybody who was going to be there, and this will be relevant later on. Later that night, I showed my husband the text messages and said it would be really nice if we joined them for Christmas, as his whole family doesn't get along, and it would be nice for his mom to see at least some of the siblings interacting. On Christmas Day, I woke up early to make some things to bring over to their house and wrapped up the gifts that I had prepared for everybody. As we approached their house, we saw a vehicle that belonged to a person that me and my husband both don't get along with, as this is someone we've had major problems with in the past. I told my husband that maybe it's just a car that looks like his, because his sister knows that we would not come over if we knew that this person was going to be there. We decided to walk in and give the gifts and say hi to everybody, and both agreed that if said person was invited, that we would just come up to his sister and brother-in-law and let them know that we are actually going to be leaving. Well, unfortunately for us, he was there, and we didn't want to make a big scene, so I came up to his sister in the kitchen and I said that I'm really sorry that we're leaving, and that if I knew that he was invited, we would have just told her right away that we weren't going to come. And I felt very bad for making the situation uncomfortable. She looked really disappointed but understood and decided to walk us to the door. Now at this point, everything was fine. That is until her husband ran in and started yelling and cussing and calling all of us names. This was pretty out of character for him, but also very inappropriate nonetheless, especially because in my opinion, we didn't do anything wrong by leaving Christmas when we are uncomfortable with being around someone that we don't like, and we wanted to avoid any conflict and not make a scene. Well, he kept screaming and calling us names and telling us that he can invite whoever he wants to his house, which we both never told him that he couldn't. The screaming continued, and his kids, in-laws, and parents all came along to see what was going on, with me and my husband just quietly putting our shoes on. He then slammed the door in our face. So right now I'm curious, does this make me the jerk for leaving Christmas when we were unaware that a person we do not get along with was invited to this as well, especially when his sister went out of her way to text me a list of everybody who is gonna be there, but somehow leaving this person out? What should I do? Okay, this seems really set up in my opinion. It almost seems like they brought that person on purpose just so there would be some kind of confrontation, or as some kind of excuse for this brother-in-law to finally freak out on you guys. Like seriously, this seems really sketchy and I don't like what's happening here. Like why would they send an entire list of everybody that's gonna be there, but then conveniently leave out the person who causes a lot of problems in your life? Like that seems super sketchy and I just don't think this has like good intentions. So no, you're not the jerk at all for leaving this party, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing, regardless of what the sister or the husband had to say about it. I'm worried that I might be overreacting after my dad basically let his girlfriend move in after I said I wasn't okay with it, because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 17-year-old female and I've been upset over the past month month since my dad's girlfriend moved in. My parents divorced a few years ago, and since then, my dad has started dating a new woman. A few months ago, he asked if she could move in, and he told me he was asking because I was the most important thing to him, and he would never allow her to move in without my okay. Now, I have only known her for a little less than a year, and I'm going through a lot of stress with the end of high school, so I said I was not okay with it, but that she could move in when I was going off to college. He pushed the question a little more, but eventually said okay. Throughout the next few months, he continuously asked me if she could move in. I continued to listen to his point, but I never changed my mind. I knew that having her move in would be a huge change for me, as I have never had any siblings or permanent residents in my house besides my mom and dad. I don't dislike her, but having my space be invaded and learning to live with someone that I felt like I didn't even know that well was bound to be a stressor. It was also a big deal to me because my life is already changing preparing for college. In my mind, I've been preparing to go off to college for a while, and having something like this happen before that big change has thrown me off. I also didn't want her to move in because I don't like her family. Her youngest son is a handful and hard to deal with, and now comes home from college to my house on some weekends and holidays. Her second oldest is kind of a jerk, even though I don't have to deal with him that much. Her oldest daughter is actually nice, and I do like her, but I really would rather not be associated with her whole family. I'm having a lot of trouble dealing with them being forced into my family because not only do I not like them, but I already have a family. My dad also recently tricked me into coming to her family's Christmas, which she hosted at our house, by telling me that we were going to spend the day together, even suggesting options like restaurants and activities. It felt so strange being the stranger at someone else's Christmas in my own house. I've started to come to the conclusion that I will need to move out because it has caused me a lot of stress to live in this house at this time. But my dad and his girlfriend are acting as if I'm overreacting. It breaks my heart to leave my pets and the house I have memories in, but I'm honestly not sure what else I could possibly do. Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from here. This honestly really does seem very annoying. There's changes happening in your life, and it seems like you're not totally receptive to it. And trust me, I completely get that. I understand that you're not willing to let someone else into your house, especially when that person is not your mom. So hopefully this all works out in some kind of way, and hopefully you're able to find some kind of solution. Because while I don't think you're completely overreacting, I do think you have the right to have a steady and stable home. And hopefully something like that can happen in the future. An entitled old jerk loses his mind after I try to let the women standing behind me get off the plane before we do. So I decided to get some petty revenge by not only waiting for everybody to go ahead of us, but also denying this guy any opportunity to pass me up in the process. Here's what happened. So I just landed from my layover, and I was in the very back of the plane, second from last row. The back was empty. I had the row to myself, and across the aisle was the older jerk of this story, who also had the row to himself, literally watching the news the entire time. And this was the same deal in the last row. Two women each having their own row. Well, we land, the seatbelt sign comes off, and people start to stand. I then stand up, and he's still sitting. One of the women stands up and lines up behind me, and that's where I start to hear him go crazy. He says out loud, "Where do you think you're going? No one's getting off yet. Sit down and stop crowding us." The woman apologizes and says, "I'm really sorry, I just need to use the bathroom." He then mutters something unintelligible and just acts like a complete jerk. I then tell her she can go ahead of me, and that's when the guy leapt up and grabbed both seats, physically blocking her from moving. He goes, "No, no, no. We get off row by row. We don't go ahead of people and we don't push and shove. We get off row by row." I then start saying, "Okay, calm down, buddy. It's not that big of a deal." But he just kept repeating, "We go row by row." He brings his guard stance down and she pushes past him. And right then, this guy looks like he's about to keel over from anger. Now the lineup is just me and then him, as well as the other woman behind us who looks disgruntled. So I say, "Okay, buddy, calm down," again, and we just start walking. 2 rows ahead of us is a couple still sitting down, getting their baby packed up. Now they clearly have a few minutes to go before they're ready. So I stop behind them and I do the same stance that he just did. I say out loud, "You guys take your time." I parked right there and I made sure this entitled old jerk wasn't going anywhere. Now the dad says it's okay and they're going to be just a moment, but I say very loudly, "Oh no, we get off row by row." That's right, row by row. You guys go right ahead. The couple had definitely heard our spat and knew exactly what was going on. And as a result, we waited a solid 3 to 4 minutes until they finally got off. But the fun didn't stop there, because as we got further ahead, I did it again with another woman who was waiting for the flight attendant to bring her bag. This lady was more confused when I insisted that we wait, but she went along with it, and I just kept saying very loudly that we get off this plane row by row. Now the first time, this entitled old jerk said, "This is stupid," but I just said back to him row by row, and the second time he was silent. But I know for a fact that I certainly wasted a good 5 or 6 minutes of his life, all because because he couldn't afford to let those women go ahead of us. I love this story because this is one of those you mess around and you find out. Like seriously, this is not that big of a deal. You're all in the back of the plane as it is, so you know for a fact you're going to be waiting pretty much all day to even get off that plane. So for him to be like, no one's getting ahead of me. It's like, dude, you're not in first class. You're literally in the back of the plane acting like an idiot, holding up two women who clearly could have just gone ahead of you and it wouldn't have caused any problems. This guy was acting like he was some kind of VIP. Like, that is so weird. So seriously, I love the fact that you got revenge on this guy because the way he was acting was incredibly inappropriate. My friend deliberately disappeared from my life after graduation, all after they used me so that they wouldn't get in trouble with school administration. So in retaliation, I decided to get some petty revenge by literally ruining their Spotify playlist in a way that is completely unrepairable. Here's what happened. Okay, for the sake of this story, let's call my friend in question Bailey. Bailey is not their real name. So I was friends with Bailey throughout most of college. We were pretty close and would always hang out. I'd drive them places, we would organize and throw parties together, which will be important later on. I would help their partner out with a place to stay or rides whenever they wanted, etc. So I think it's safe to say that I thought we were pretty good friends. Sometime during our final year, Bailey, along with a few others, was a part of a long and pretty nasty conflict with other people I was acquainted with. This conflict ended up being escalated to the school administration, and they ended up calling in everyone named as a potential witness to testify so that they could have all sides and all info to make a decision regardless of the situation. Throughout all of this, Bailey would check in on me and encourage me to speak out, remind me of things that had happened, and made sure our story stayed consistent. Throughout this, I felt like I was being a good friend by speaking the truth and defending my friends from attacks, while making sure the other individuals involved would be held accountable for whatever happened. Well, fast forward to the week leading up to graduation, and I was reaching out to a lot of people so that I could get a meal in with them before we all left for good. I tried reaching out to Bailey and the group that we were a part of so that we could get a meal together, but I got no answer. After insisting, I was told that one of them, not the friend in question, wasn't allowed to hang out with people of my gender because their partner didn't allow it. So I didn't press the matter further, and I decided that I'd just try and see these people individually at some point. And not to spoil it, but that never happened. And the same thing happened with graduation photos. I didn't get any with Bailey or that group. A few days after graduation, I went to send Bailey something on social media, only to realize I was blocked by them on everything. After talking to some other friends who had been abroad, they confirmed that Bailey told people after graduation that they were going to use me to gain leverage during their troubles with the school administration, and then they were going to block me, which was shocking to me because this person never showed any signs of disliking me, nor did anything happen for them to feel that way about me. All of this leads to today when I found an old device I haven't used in 3 years. It turns out Bailey had logged into Spotify on this device of mine for an event but never logged out. And after all this time, I finally got a chance to enact some sort of revenge. So I ended up deleting all of their playlists and unfollowing any and all artist playlists that they had saved. By the time I was done, they had no music left and had logged out of their account as to prevent anybody from knowing it was me. So sure, it is kind of petty, but you know what? Bailey screwed me over in a serious way. And while I am still upset about it, I'm really glad that I no longer have to be around you. Oh man, Bailey sounds like a terrible person. They literally used you in a way that honestly is so inappropriate. And honestly, the way this ended is kind of like the way it always ends in other situations. You don't really get that satisfying ending, and you just try to move on from the crappy situation. So I think it's fantastic that you got some kind of revenge on this person, because the way they acted towards you, in my opinion, is incredibly inappropriate. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel, and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.